Hello and welcome to GRAPPL Live here on the GRAPPL YouTube. I'm Benno. I've forgotten where all the buttons are to do these lives here for everybody, not just the patrons. We are live for worldwide at this point on the old YouTube. Also, we'll be out there on the Twitch at some point once I figure out all the buttons and such as well. And there might be many people listening to this on the audio somewhere as well, so hello to you folks as well. Just a bit of a quick intro while I've got my guest waiting in the wings backstage. As you know, it is a Benno and Hamflett edition of the live this week. Things are a little bit up in the air still with the old GRAPPL schedule. We are still obviously giving JP some time away to take care of everything he needs to take care of. So I just thought, yeah, in the meantime, while we don't have a spotlight to review any kind of big show from WWE or AEW, or even New Japan, if you didn't catch my show at WH Park the other week for Wrestle Kingdom as well, why not jump in with some GRAPPL lives? Obviously, I tried these out at the end of last year. I mean, rough plan is to do 1 or 2 a month of these lives, like I say, on these slightly dead weeks, but we'll see how it goes. So I'll obviously bring in a few different guests and such as well. Michael joining me tonight. I've actually got Davey Portman joining me for the weekend show over on the Patreon later this week. We've got Martin Bushby joining me for the live next week, and then Matty's going to take care of the weekend show over on the Patreon the week after with a guest. I'm not sure who. I'm sure he's probably going to be trying to worm his way into my guest tonight and try and get him to spare his Thursday night next week as well. But like I say, all a little bit up in the air. We've got Platt's King of the Mountain show coming up this weekend as well, and then Raw Roulette. And then we are into February as well. So yeah, hopefully people can continue to bear with us while we try a couple of things and work them all out. But yeah, good to see a few people in the chat. Good to see Platt, Ewan in there as well, Chris Elliott, Nathan as well. They're in the chat as well. I am doing my best to make things professional, and we do have Paul in the chat there as well. So yeah, if you are there, throw it your comments in there. Super chats also welcome. I think that's what the professionals say. But you can also throw in any questions you've got for us, and me and my guest are gonna attempt to go into them later on in the show as well. But with all that said, like I say, he's waiting backstage. He's my co-host over on Benno and Hamflett. He was my drinking buddy only 2 weeks ago up here in Liverpool as I stayed in room 316 of the Liverpool Central Travel Lodge. More on that in a second, but joining us right now. He couldn't quite get at a wrestling theme room, but he didn't do too bad in the end. It's Michael Hamflett. How's it going, mate?
Benno, I'm so pleased to see you. I feel like nervous as opposed to when we sit down to record Benno and Hamflett, because obviously I can see the GRAPPL brand in here as well. How do I even intro this from my end of things? Do I say from the boom to the bigger boom? Because we might start with a mention of you talking about Wrestle Kingdom, but we're gonna get on to talking about Raw in the UK. So it's like, there is no bust in this bit of it, is it? It's not like we've got the 1995 of it all to get through. It's all boom.
I don't know. I'd say all bust, but maybe that can be the conversation we'll have today. You wouldn't know it, to be honest. I was obviously being in Belfast this week. I was knocking around. I didn't manage to afford myself any Raw tickets. They were too rich for my blood, like £500-600 or something like that price of entry. As I sent you the picture, I managed to get into there's Steph was telling me off because I don't think it is quite it's like a food court / mall type situation. I think it's all just connected to the arena, but it's got doors. The Odyssey, it's called, I think. It's got doors that literally go straight into the arena. So the closest I got was I was right up against the glass peering through. I saw a mysterious hooded gentleman who definitely looked like a wrestler. I'm pretty sure it might have been the latest member of a certain faction over there. But yeah, I managed to get a picture, and just in trying to pap the wrestler, I just papped my own face. So there's a big picture of my head looking like Crichton that you can find on the Discord at this point. But that's all I could afford, mate. So that's why I had to bring in the expert.
If you'd have thought about it, yeah, I'll jump ahead to something I'm looking forward to talking about as well. When you guys reviewed, brilliant job of the review of UK Rampage 92, and you referenced, of course, that you've got to get our friend from Skegness Butlins, Danny Boy Collins, working the opener in order for WWE to dodge taxes or whatever it is. Could you have just not said that you were the token British guy, and that you were there, you were knocking on the door saying, I'm Benson Richards. I wrestled in Liverpool in the 2000s. I'm here to work. And they could have put you in the dark match or something like that. That's how you could have got into the building without that dropped 500 quid.
Could have worked out, to be honest. The security were looking at me a little funny, who is he? Is he the enhancement talent? I always remember that from being at WCW house shows like in Manchester and in the early 2000s, and like seeing like the announcement talent coming in, like we were saying on that UK Rampage show, kind of going, that's not real wrestlers though, is it? That's like the British stuff my dad likes. Like I'm sure actually we all saw Danny Boy Collins working at Butlins or something like that when we were kids. But I could have been that guy, yeah. I could have been the non-proper guy wearing me way in. But honestly, it was mad walking around just seeing everyone. Like I couldn't help but judge people. Like everybody I walked past who was wearing, like I saw one person who had like a homemade Joe Hendry t-shirt, and part of me was kind of like, I understand that because he's probably spent £700 on his ticket, so you do need to budget at some point. But like we were walking past like the ZZ that was in like the complex next to the arena, and just looking at people going, how can you afford a meal on top of your ticket? Like what are you doing? It's the haves and have-nots, mate, of the world. It made me think very differently about that fan base, and God, it was kind of chilled as well. It almost felt like the people who were at the show, like if I've ever been to like a Manchester WWE show or anything like that, usually the city centre is buzzing in the day, and like I say, other than us trying to pat pictures, it was all pretty quiet in the afternoon. Maybe these people have got really important jobs they were doing or something like that, such to fund the habit.
The profile of Fedhead skews every sort of social and societal spectrum, Benno. That's the thing, you see. It's then now together forever on the Sting at the beginning, because it brings the whole world together. That's why it's the WWE universe, not the WWE town. Like it brings everybody together. I was going to say rich and poor, but that wouldn't be true, would it? Because
the rich people, in it.
Like
all the rich kids, I'm looking at them going, when I was a kid, my mum and dad couldn't even afford me to take me to the match. I had to sit on my dad's lap when we beat Wimbledon to stay up in the Great Escape in the early 90s. You know, it's like different world, isn't it? The haves and have-nots here.
The rest of my Christmas was cancelled, just getting tickets for the kids to go to the house show. Like
I was going to say, you did well. 60 did you spend? That's not too bad. That's all right.
60 quid a ticket, and it was like one of their big Christmas presents as well. So if you rationalize it like that, it's about the price of like a PlayStation or an Xbox game. And you think, right, well, if that's in place of that, I remember logging on to get them and just almost like typing through my fingers, because I was ready to see 100 plus just to sit in. And like the building in Newcastle's an awful building, like, and you know, we got a great view.
Is that why it's cheap?
Partly, like the sight lines are good, but everything else about it stinks. It's just like one of those those kind of buildings that seemed like they were going to be built to last forever in the 90s, like the kind of ice hockey all-purpose thing that just ended up dating and aging horribly. The acoustics are rotten. Like this, even like those plastic chairs that theoretically should never go out of shape have all now developed sharp edges and stuff. It's just it's not and everything feels like a busier queue than it needs to be. That sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But
enough of a Goodison Bach or Hill Dickinson actually, which you experienced.
Basically, WWE charged the same as Kylie to run that building. So we must be in a bit of a sweet spot price-wise that I could justify tickets for both of those events in a single calendar year. But look, if WWE brought TV to Newcastle, I'd be stood outside the building with tears in my eyes, but I wouldn't be walking inside it, because I looked on Ticketmaster kind of on your behalf yesterday. I think now I might send Benno a joke message about like how much he could part with today just to get in. And it was... You keep thinking that you must have left a filter on, you know, when you're doing the pricing, like, I must have left a box ticked. Where's my, I think like 93 was the cheapest. I was like, all right, where's the 93 quid ticket? And it wasn't there. There weren't any.
You'd pretend it's there, wouldn't it? It'd be like, oh yeah, pick your price, and you pick your price point, you pick the £93, and then you hit the submit, and it's like, here you go, two £450 tickets. That'll do, won't it? That'll be sound, yeah? No, absolutely not. Part of it's probably the amount of time I've spent in Asia as well is probably, I don't know, maybe the ticket price increase in the UK has passed me by, but I don't think I pay more than 30. Like, I'm just the cheapskate. I was saying to Steph, I'll stretch to 50, maybe 60 at an absolute push, but that's me proper being beaten down at that point. Like, it's a different world. But I was so glad, like, after we wandered around Belfast and didn't get into the show, we ended up going to Lidl in Iceland on the way back to get some shopping, and it actually restored some of my sanity that you could still buy items in the UK for less than £1.50, maybe not quite £1 yet. You know, you can still get little bits and pieces in a Lidl or in Iceland, but outside of that, mate, it's been a fucking shock being there back this last while. Never mind, again, being out on that night out in Liverpool with you lot, and getting a round in the Swan and finding out. And yes, Gareth, I did get a round in the Swan. That is a thing that happened. I realised that's a mistake, by the way. Don't buy Gareth a round too late in the night. He'll forget it happened, and then Matty will get all the credit. But it's like 25 quid for 4 reasonably priced pints, and that's just the UK now at this point. At an island, obviously, it's the world we live in.
I don't regret a thing about my fantastic weekend spent in Liverpool. Not a thing. But like it took me about 4 days to fire up the Monzo and like deal with the consequences of it. Like,
I don't know what you spent on the Hill Dickinson, mate, but I spent a fucking lot.
Oh God, like it just again, no regrets. I'd rather piss some of it up the wall on some great memories than own stuff at this particular time in my life. But for anybody that like also might listen to anything we do at What Culture, like I basically my activities in Liverpool on the weekend were borderline unprofessional because they almost got in the way of being able to physically do my job by Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Like I would have to sit in silence in the office, drinking lukewarm water and like gargling salt and the honey and lemon, all the gimmicks basically, all the like a wrestler's toolkit, but for your voice.
Did you have it in a fanny pack just to go full gimmick?
All my gimmicks in the bum bag just to get through like a Raw preview or something, and then go back to voice rest for another. God forbid I don't know, have to speak to my wife and children or anything. Now I'm afraid I need it for work. It was just. It was.
It is a problem when talking as you're living in it. It is an issue. Like when I left. By the way, to answer the question in the chat before, somebody said they were very perceptive. Did Michael get room 619? You actually got room 620, didn't you, in the travel lodges? I got it.
Couldn't believe it.
I popped when I got mine, by the way. He didn't even. I felt like he knew we were wrestling fans because he was like, "Oh," he didn't say, "Oh, you're in room 316." He was like, "Yeah, you're in room 316. There's your key." And I was just like, "Where's Michael? I need to show him this. That this is real." It was that close to double dipping as well.
Did they do the bit where like they ask you to, if you've got like a car registration plate, and if not, like to sign your autograph at the bottom, and then he goes, "Where do I sign?" And then he just went and he goes, "Oh, just there. That's the bottom line." And then you get to give him the eyes and be like, you know,
because Travelodge said so. Yeah, he knows. Maybe I was giving the game away there.
I don't think like ultimately it could have gone. It couldn't have been any sweeter, honestly, the entire weekend. I'd already like bored people with talking about the fact that there was like double cribs live in Liverpool on the day of Everton Sunderland in the Hill Dickinson, but it was even the match itself. We're all friends here. Like Sunderland edged it and won the game on penalties and that, but
deserved. I will agree.
Well, yeah, but even the fact it was in the cup, it took any of the sting out of it because it felt as much like a friendly for us as it did a competitive game of football for the players, didn't it? And it was just an excuse to have our little tourist day at the nice new stadium. And the Friday night, we were chasing pops off the Betro boys, and I think we were successful in getting them as well. Matty, like I'd messaged you in the days leading up to it, saying like, this dry January thing, I'm gutted in a way. Like, drink's not going to be the be all and end all, but it would have been nice if like we'd have all of a sudden been able to twist Matty's arm to stay out in the metal clubs or whatever. Oh. And there was no arm twisting required. We didn't even need to grab a hold. He sat down.
Bar, wasn't he?
We had a moment, and then he goes, "Well, right, I'm gonna have to get a pint." Then we hadn't even we probably had. I imagine me and you had that telepathy where we teed up 3 or 4 little like prod lines to try and get him to break it. We were like, it could be February the 1st. You could carry it on Monday. He was straight up. He was like, well, I'm getting a beer then, and that was it. It was job done.
Dry January ended on January. What was it? The 10th, something like that. It's. I think he started it up again though. So he is the dedicated man. He is a man of his word there. But I knew it. And then 2 in the morning, wearing like the K1 Rock Club, and there's red stripes on the go, and it's one of those fucking nights we always knew it was coming. But I honestly, I was just impressed.
On the tellies. Did you know that was going to have?
Oh yeah. They have so anyone who's been to Liverpool, it's not the proper crazy house, not the crazy house we often talk about on our podcast. It's two doors down. Yeah, it's about 2 doors down. But it's trying to keep like the spirit of what was the original crazy house in Liverpool alive. And yeah, anytime you go in there, I think it's honestly since the Netflix debut. I think I said it to you when we launched Benno and Hamflett, maybe even on the first show. Like you go in and it's just like Netflix had come out, with WWE. So like somebody there who maybe didn't follow wrestling had just put the WrestleMania playlist on. So every time you went in, especially if you went in early in the night, WrestleMania 1 or 2 would be on it. Which like, it's a bit like when you're a kid and you're like, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna watch all the WrestleManias and work my way through, and then you get halfway through the Belfast that is WrestleMania 2 and realise it's not a good idea. So I was glad we had you there. Where it was it WrestleMania 18 was on the telly?
21.
It was 21.
Michael's, wasn't it? Yeah.
No. Oh yeah, of course it was. Yeah. So like that just tells you like that's probably where they're up to in the playlist this month. And at some point it'll rewind back and go back to WrestleMania 1 as well. But yeah, I was made up. We got to show you all those sites. But I was gonna say, like, I still can't believe that. Like, I was dead after that. Like, that was my first night back in Liverpool. Obviously, after being away for the majority of the year. I said to you off air, I had to go to my dad's on the Saturday afternoon, and he ended up dragging me to Wetherspoons, which felt like a step too far for me. And actually, you're off to Cribs gigs. Obviously, we got ourselves up to go to the the Everton Sunderland game in the afternoon, of which, like I say, I'm complaining about prices. I got into that for like less than 25 quid, and then I ended up spending about 50 on pies and Diet Cokes and coffees and whatever I could do to soothe me hangover. But yeah, not quite the party animal you are, mate. You did us all proud.
Well, see, this is it now. Like, I'm the same as Matty in that respect, because my dry January pretty much started the moment I got home. It wasn't in my plans, but when I got back and I was exhausted for like 3 days and couldn't speak, I thought that's probably it for me in the booze until the next one. You know, there'll be a night that presents itself in February or March that'll be right. I think I'm actually ready to return to the drink. That's the body, that's our age. I don't know. I don't know. Wrestlers did it. How did wrestlers like travel and work and drink and go again? Well, yeah,
gimmicks. As you say, figure it out. We've learned it on most of these housekeepings we've been doing, but yeah, like I'm saving my next big night out till September-ish, maybe August if I'm possibly back for All In when we're there. But like I say, I always make the plans. I'll meet Matty, I'll meet Gareth, I'll meet yourself, and then I'll meet my family. We'll figure it out as far as the day goes. But I've got to throw in before we go any further. Obviously, we did on that night as well. I had told the lads, and I think the reason I kind of managed to twist their arm into coming out a couple of weeks after Christmas, like, oh, we'll record GRAPPL, lads. It'll be a get together. You'll get to see me. I wasn't enough of a draw apparently. We'll record the podcast, and then, like say, the second you appeared and Matty was at the bar, I knew that plan wasn't going to happen, but we did manage to get the grappies and crappies in eventually midweek, also in a pub the week after as well. So yeah, our reputation does precede us, but we got that in, and on top of that, obviously, I think the biggest challenge to keeping it secret that you were coming up to Liverpool to meet me, Matty and Gareth, was that we have actually already got in the can, and it ties in perfectly to having you here on this GRAPPL Live, the next edition of Benno and Hamflett. I'll let you do the big sell job, mate, but we in fact do have the Bretro boys guesting on that, and that was actually 3 days before the night out, and I still can't believe I didn't trip up and go, see us all on Friday, lads. We'll see you there. But I have said it a few times on stuff behind the GRAPPL Patreon paywall, so it pretty much is out there at this point. For me, one of the best shows we've ever done, and the crossover of the winter, is it fair to say, coming up this week?
Absolutely. It got to the point where we'd spent so much time flying the flag for Team Sean that we couldn't not get the Bretro lads on for Canadian Stampede. A Seanless in your house as well. So in some respects, we gave them a bit of a free pass. If we're ever to bring them back, it's almost like we should pick one of the many times he actually steals the show and then force them like the Clockwork Orange bit with the the eyes open, and like accept that he was brilliant, you know. But yeah, you know, and nobody needs, I imagine, listening to this show, any reminder of the stuff that's on the Canadian Stampede card, but just that like kind of all-time celebrated WWF pay-per-view, let alone an in your house or whatever. So it was great getting Matty and Gareth's takes on the whole thing. And just, I think the first opportunity I would say we've had, because obviously we've had special guests in the past. Matty had been on in the past. We'd had Andy Ogden on for a prior one, but it was the first time to get Gareth on for an in your house as well. And it was quite nice, wasn't it? Because I think, like, and I completely understand why here in 2026, why Gareth wouldn't particularly fancy diving deep into much WWE content, especially the new stuff when you guys force him at gunpoint to get caught up on Raw and SmackDown. But this, like, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but from like stuff he said on the podcast, we seem to land on an era that he pinpointed as his like all-time favorite for the company. Yeah. So even if we'd have gone 95 and found a Brett match that he liked, or even like 2000 when just everything was hot, I don't think we could have, like, fortuitously really, but I don't think we could have landed on something that suited his fed tastes more than this show as well. So I think you'll get, you know, there's a good bit of debate and there's like a couple of disagreements on the match, but a lot of it is like, it's celebrate. 4 old men basically telling you that everything was better in the past, as if there's not enough podcasts out there that do that anyway. We're sticking another one on the pile.
That's exactly it. And there's already 2 podcasts, like I say, Benno and Hamflett doing it and Bretro doing it. So why not make an extra bonus one with the 4 of us coming together? No, like, it's easy to say it's probably our best show, but like I think it is, but also mainly for me because it was just pure relief. Because again, anyone who's a patron over on GRAPPL knows that Matty's been threatening now for the past few weeks to come with he was making notes apparently, listening to the old Benno and Hamflett episodes, coming up with anything we might have negatively said about Brett and anything positive we said about Sean. Gareth was apparently doing the same thing, ready to draw the knives out on us, and then we just had a bloody good time talking about wrestling in it. I don't think there was much disagreement there in the opening bit, so I have to say saved that now for. I think we've said it, haven't we? We're going to try and do like a Brett versus Sean, the debate type show. I still don't know how that would work out. Maybe I've said it before to you off air. Might as well say it out loud. Like thinking of like maybe we could have like a Brett match versus Diesel, and then a Sean match versus Diesel, and a Brett match versus Undertaker, and a Sean match versus Undertaker. Throw in Leon in there. Throw in Sid in there. All the big lumps pretty much. And Sue did the better job with who? Maybe we could throw in one of those rare ones somebody mentioned. Obviously, with us doing UK Rampage this weekend, somebody mentioned around that time there's a Sean and Brett tag that we could possibly look at some point, and maybe we could settle it once and for all, and that could be the one where we can go to war. And like I say, the one this weekend, it's mostly peace in the Middle East when it comes to the Brett Sean debate, and I did think it made for the better show for that.
Quite a sort of I guess it's the first half of a two-part season finale for season 1 of Benno and Hamflett as well, isn't it? Like this is we've got one more housekeeping to wrap up season 1, but this was a nice way to
the 2-hour period, the 2-hour season is season 1.
Cap off the 2-hour ones. This was end of an era, wasn't it? This in your house as well, so it was nice to kind of touch on that as well.
Yeah, that's it. And obviously, again, OCD in us, it's when the next one, Ground Zeroes, when they switch the naming convention round. So instead of Benno and Hamflett in your house, I think we're going to be in your house, Benno and Hamflett going forward to flip that as well. I don't know. We'll figure something out, but there's going to be a bit of a break between season 1 and season 2. You'll hear more about that in the upcoming shows, but not a gigantic break, but just enough to let people miss us and basically give me time to go away and figure out what the logo is going to look like. All I know right now is lots of red, lots of black, and lots of grey is going to be the attitude era of Benno and Hamflett season 2, but we'll figure something out. If anyone's got any ideas, let me know. As the lights, the wire's coming for you. What's going on there? Is this the oh, there we go.
I'm waiting for in general, I'm keeping my fingers crossed for Solo Sikoa to appear, but especially now because then he might have the lantern with him and he'll be able to shed a bit of light in his office.
Well, I want to hear more about how the kids reacted to that at the UK House Show, to go back to that. But before we go, like I said, we're a bit all over the place here, but like the best way into that, just a quick plug, UK Rampage 92, we did it the weekend. Like, obviously, I've got to ask you about that because you were there. You were there. Martin was there. It seems like everybody of Brit Res Note was there, except for the three of us that were on the podcast we did this weekend. But any memories of that? Can we compare and contrast it with the experience of seeing WWE in the UK this weekend?
Well, yeah, because it's funny how these things tend to work, and there's always wrestling symmetry if you want to go looking for it, isn't it? I think that's the way these things. It was just before right before my 8th birthday, so I reckon, and we went with like one of my friends and his mom, and it wasn't really the sort of thing that my mom and dad would be switched on for getting tickets. So I have to think it was my friend's mom that must have put the call out to my mom and said, like, do you think that this would be good to take the boys to and something? Because we were a good couple of hours away as well, and it wasn't by any means an easy night to go and do it on it might have been a school night. I'd need to double check. I remember it was April the 19th. That's right at the top of my head. So I'd need to check what day of the week it was. But the cool thing was, like, a bit younger than, so like I'll get on to a little bit of taking my boys to the house show last week, but my youngest is 10 and I would have been just a little bit younger than that. And it did allow me to put myself back in the headspace of what he might be seeing, because I do remember we weren't like, the Sheffield Arena is not a massive venue by any stretch, but the ring looked incredible and it looked a million miles away. Do you know what I mean? I felt like I was it'd be like us walking into Wembley now, or a big American football stadium now. That's what an 8,000 seat arena with a ring in the middle feels like when you're that young. So the vastness of it is something that stuck with me. And I got a Hulk Hogan foam finger, and my friend got a Legion of Doom bandana, which makes me think that the spikes were too expensive. You know, like your parents. I did this last week. You know, there's like a ceiling of how much you're allowed to spend on merch for something. Yeah. They must have set that ceiling to like the lower ticket items. If he's got an LLOD bandana and I've got the Hogan foam finger, it means nobody's getting a t-shirt. Definitely nobody's getting the spikes. And I got, because they sat in my loft for years and they're still upstairs somewhere in a box, I've got a pair of Bret Hart glasses, but I never opened those ones. Like they stayed in the packet. So the little slip of paper that came with them has still got like the date, the copyright for like 1991 on the piece of paper. So I know that, you know, that's because they would have been like a £2 or £3 item probably, or something like that, whatever the price was.
Whereas now they're worth like £300, and that explains why you've not worn them on a Benno and Hamflett yet.
Yeah, well, this is it. You can get them. I bought a pair for when we did the live show in Vegas last year because I was doing a Bret themed entrance, and you can get quality pairs off eBay for like £5 or £6. Really good remakes, you know. But the real deal is buried somewhere up there for like if the kids never need a car buying or something like that. I'm hoping that's when I'll make that count. But my other memories, my mom always used to laugh at the fact that I was booing the British Bulldog. So it was as if I knew that his In Your House run was one day going to happen. I must have just been a little hater or something about David
I was like
Smith.
that. We probably talked about it before. When it comes to like SummerSlam 92, I distinctly remember, if he's out there somewhere, being in my mate Barry Grundy's house and all of my mates were cheering for the British Bulldog. I was like, oh, Brett's all our favourite wrestler. Why are we cheering for him?
Yeah.
Just because he's got a British flag on his leg, and I would carry that lesson through for the rest of my life. #Scouse not English, or however you want to word it. But like, no, I don't ascribe to that. But still, like, yeah, I was the same way. I was like, the Brett Trail boys will give me shit, but like, that's one thing I meant to mention when we did the podcast of the weekend. I was fully in on Brett during this period. Brett was the coolest man on earth. It was the sunglasses, it was the wet hair, it was the, as we always talk about, a Benno Hamflett, the shit promos, but he looks cool doing them. There was just something about him. He was my wrestler at that point. I felt the same way.
My big memory from the Sean Savage match as well was like a proper sense of dread that he might win the belt, because my dad was always just on the wind up in terms of if there was a heel who he'd catch a glimpse of, then he'd just like him to annoy me. And he'd seen Sean throw Marty through the glass in the barbershop, and that obviously stuck out to him. And as a result, he would always just say, "Oh, is Sean on? Who's Sean wrestling?" That kind of thing. And it would have been like losing a football match, having to go home and tell him that Sean's won the belt. Like I was dreading the idea that like he was going to be right about his favorite winning the belt before mine, that kind of thing. So I remember being glad that Savage won. And then years later, when you could finally fact check the dates on these things, it was I loved the historical significance of Sid leaving and Liz having a last ever Fed appearance, and it's just I love when you have accidentally become part of like a very small slice of history. I don't know, that's a wrestling fan thing, isn't it? You hold those things in higher regard, but it's a cool thing to say that you were there for, I suppose.
Oh, massively. Like, I'm so jealous. I did go to a UK show until, again, WCW's house shows in 2000. And like, it was just, the idea of that was just foreign to me, that I was allowed to step into the telly, that I was allowed to, could be in an arena. While, if anything, I might have been a bit disappointed that if I was like sat far back and I wasn't like right up close, it might not have been quite what I wanted out of it. But again, those kids who had those seats this weekend in Belfast are paying through the nose at it in a way that maybe my mum and dad wouldn't have had to pay back in the day, but I don't think I could have talked them into it, unfortunately. So like, I'm so jealous that you've all got those memories and have you got the ticket stub like Martin's got? I'm going to ask him about that next week as well. He's got his little £15 ticket stub from the show.
That'd be the sort of thing, again, if it's in a box, it's a box that like I've somehow never seen. So it'd be the kind of thing where like I bet my folks have just seen it and like thought nothing of it and thrown it away. You know, like our parents' generation, the ones before them, just don't attach sentiment to silly bollocks like we do. I dare say that I was like, well, we got in the building with it. That was its function, in the bin it goes, or something like that. Not realizing that we'd want to treasure those things forever.
Like my mum throwing away all my WF magazines and my Power Slams, thanks mum. Could have kept us in Observe This and Power Slam that for a very long time. Oh well, they don't. I've tried. Are your boys going to be like that? Obviously, to link it to the house show you went to at the weekend. What was I wonder what the bill was on merch and such like that, because like it's funny, we always talk about it, don't we? I feel like you spent. And I heard you talking about it on What Culture, like the extended bit where you talked about your experience at the show. Like, you tried so hard to get the kids going as far as wrestling goes, and like feel like the penny might have finally dropped, but I don't want to jinx it.
Well, no, this is the thing, right? It's if people want to watch, I won't go long here and ramble, but there's a video on the What Culture Wrestling podcast YouTube channel, because I ended up accidentally hijacking our SmackDown preview, because it was 24 hours later, just gushing about what an amazing night I'd had with the boys at the show. I actually didn't push it on them. I had no, like, it's partly because it's my job, but also because there's a lot of other things you can get into. Wrestling's just one thing. It was nice. It was the Royal Rumble, because the Rumble's a really easy way for people to get in, isn't it? And then it was Netflix and the availability. It was those two things were like this perfect storm for them to really get into it, without it just being the boring thing dad talks about at work. That was where it crossed the line for them. And then I was trying to hide that the house show was coming to Newcastle, and WWE's promotion's second to none, isn't it? So they were just watching something, and the trailer popped up, and the screams of like, oh, Dad, they're in Newcastle, and this would have been like September, October, where they saw the advert. I was like, right, that's like, I think I was cagey. I was like, I'll see what I can do. And then that's when it went on the Christmas.
Should have pulled the trick like my dad probably did back then. Is like, oh, you're watching an old tape, son. That was last summer. Sorry, that's when the British Bulldog was from Leeds or Sheffield or wherever he was pretending to be from in the advert.
I need to learn to think quicker in these scenarios, so I'm not like Brassic for the rest of the month.
Oh yeah,
But
maybe.
it, it was honestly I did use this analogy with Wilborn on that podcast where they've like started watching Sunderland. You know, it's if you're a parent and you've got a football team, it's a wonderful thing to be able to take your kid and have them get into it. But you can't control the result, can you? And
No.
I've been very blessed as at the age at which the kids have come into Sunderland is when we've risen from League One to the Championship to how it's going in the Premier League now. Luckily, the sport has given me this like nice run of form that has kind of hooked them a little bit.
Yeah.
Like wrestling's supposed to emulate that, isn't it? Wrestling's supposed to guarantee you that because you're in control of the results, you're in control of the experience. And I think in hindsight, a house show's a million times better way to do that than taking them to TV. I do wonder what like questions they would have asked instead of had to watch CM Punk standing hot dog in the ring for 5 minutes as the wrestlers have to at TV tapings. You know, they put a screen and a set on the house show now so it resembles enough of what you see at television. It's not like when we were kids and if you went to a house show, you got a big curtain. And that was like, it really struck me that like for the recognized symbol of excellence in sports entertainment, often if you were expecting a Titantron on a ramp and you were greeted with a grey curtain in an aisle, the first thing you feel walking at the building is disappointment as a younger fan, isn't it? And they've addressed that now. It looks like it
You'd immediately know it didn't matter, wouldn't you? You'd figure it out like, oh, this isn't on the telly either. Oh, I think I understand what's going on here.
It's a mindset thing, isn't it? You know, and then they'd open the show with something that didn't really mean anything. And, you know, it was 20 years of being shit. So a lot of the time it was something that didn't mean anything. But this one opened with Gunther versus Sammy. And right out the gate, as far as the kids or anyone in attendance is being told, is like, oh no, this is going to be a night that is worth your money, that is worth your investment. I wouldn't drop a couple of £100 for front row on a house show, but to see Gunther and Sammy in the opener and to get your selfies and your pictures with everybody, I would argue those people did get the money's worth because you're not going to have to go at the hood. Like, it's not the Vince McMahon era where he's blatantly bollocking the wrestlers to get straight to the back. Don't give them an inch of anything more. That the music plays 5 times through now as the wrestlers get every last selfie and they sign every last sign or picture or whatever. So if you're in the front row, that's your added value, you know. And if you're in the sort of the seats we were in where the sight lines are good, you've got this nice view of a screen for the videos and the entrances feel like Cody's resembles television, even if it's not quite as bombastic, and that's big for the kids. It was the purity of Sunderland scoring a late winner sort of every 15, 20 minutes. They would react. The wrestling dictated how they would react. There was no, I didn't need to try and, I wonder who's going to come out next or anything. They were just, if it was good, they were reacting to it. And if it was bad, so like Becky Lynch and Maxine Dupree stunk. I mean, it stunk. And kids, they're not going to sit there and boo and give it like 1 star, but they are going to sit there with their arms folded and just be like, I want to be entertained. But like everything else on the card, the way it was paced, the quality of the matches, it was just, like £60 of, I don't know, everything's expensive. You get billed for leaving the house when you got kids now. You take them somewhere for food, you take them bowling, you take them to the arcades, you take them take them to the football. It's too expensive. Everything's too expensive. I've definitely spent worse 60 quids ahead than that night, the memories and the everything else. You know, I don't know if the second and the third and the fourth will be as good, but as a first one, couldn't have gone better.
It's tough, innit? Because like Andy says, they're still ridiculously overpriced. It would be for me. I'm a fucking cheapskate. I would have, if a ticket had come up for the Belfast. Again, it's TV, so maybe I could have pushed myself to spending 60. But it's easy for me to say that as an adult, slightly jobless, who's traveling this year. Even for me, would have been a bit of a stretch. But I think that is the question, though, isn't it? It's like I heard you saying about like at least it's cheaper in the grand scheme of things, even if still not cheap. But like the fact that a cheaper house show existed for you to be able to take them to, like, that's so important, isn't it? Like when it comes to it, obviously it's not I would have killed to step into the telly and be at a show when I was a kid. I didn't get it, and I still became a hardcore wrestling fan. But I do think a lot of hardcore wrestling fans get creative from that, don't they? From families being able to take the kids. I did the same thing. I tried to take my younger brother Mark when he was a kid to the house show in Manchester. It was the same day Everton played Liverpool in the FA Cup semi-final. I literally got a train all the way back from Wembley, crying into tears because Liverpool had won, all the way back to Manchester to meet me older brother, younger than me but older than brother Peter and our Mark, and take take him there because it was so important to me. I was like, I've got to get him there. He like randomly like Sheamus. It must have been about 2010, and it was just like, fine, we're gonna get. He's gonna be the biggest Sheamus fan in the world, and he's gonna become a big wrestling fan. And yeah, the show was so shite. I don't think he ever watched wrestling again. So there's that other side to it as well. But you can see it, and I think, like I say, I think my big pushback would be, and I think AEW gets it right. You know, when it comes to ticket prices and such like that as well. It's not necessarily a loss leader, but like you do need that, don't you? To like, it shouldn't be exclusively for, especially at a city like Belfast. Obviously, not that I'm a native, but spending a lot of time here and kind of knowing the place a little bit. Like, it shouldn't just be the upper class families who get to go and see wrestling, and brag to the the mates in school that the dad could afford a £250 ticket or whatever it is. It's one thing for like, to super save the nerds, and there's a lot of those, a lot of single males with beards and hats like mine who I saw queuing up outside, who are willing to spend £500 on a premium experience and drop another £400 to get to meet CM Punk or whatever was going on in the daytime. But like, yes, you want to make your money off those people, but it is like you made the argument for more house shows, and wrestlers' necks and heads be damned. I'll try not to step on that line man again, but like, there is an argument just from that pure point of view, isn't there? I know AEW have tried it in the past with the house rule shows and stuff like that. You do want to grab those people younger. That is an opening, I think, for an AEW. That is an opening for whoever else. That's an opening for, it's kind of a lot of the time why BritRes exists. It's why like a GPW can run in Wigan and draw a crowd every, few months when they run shows, because the parents can look at it and go, well, as a family, we can have a day out here for 50 quid when, it wouldn't get us through the door for one of us for 50 quid. And like, it's got to be a consideration, I think, and it just does bring that straight to the mind.
Yeah, we joke all the time, and WWE is my thing and that, but I would never feel manipulated by a price into having to go if I didn't want to go. I'm old enough and wise or dumb either way enough now to sort of make that decision for myself. And if the tickets were too expensive, it would have just have to have been a no for the kids. There was a line. Steph
was like, lived her whole life hoping like there'd be a TV in Belfast, and she was like, I wish I was maybe a bit more into WWE that I'd go, but I'd be like, I'd still judge you though. If you spend 500 quid on a ticket for this today, like, I'd still be judging you. Like, there's got to be a line in the sand for everyone.
Totally. It's like everyone's got their threshold, and I don't judge anyone for whatever theirs is. But yeah, the whole to your other point there as well, like the whole takeaway was just, it wasn't just about prices or about the quality of the action, because not every house show is going to be, they're not all made equal, are they? But that was my biggest takeaway. I was like, the experience I've just had is something that everybody would benefit from. Like, I think, like, I felt properly enlivened. I've quite enjoyed WWE in 2026, so maybe that's a bit of a timing thing. I feel like they've kind of got the train on the tracks a little bit from the back end of 2025.
It's been 3 weeks, we'll see.
Well, this is it. Yeah, I've got like as always, I've got quite a low bar for these things. But but yeah, just thinking about if they'd have still had this schedule and still maintained this schedule, and it meant because they were running more shows, the finances allowed them to even just drop the price by a tenner. I do think we lost the middle ground, didn't we? The show you've just described, and the years where you could go to a TV taping for sort of, say, under 50 quid, for example, we've lost that middle ground because they were dog shit shows that were priced quite reasonably. And then we went to, obviously, regardless of your thoughts on the Fed or whatever, a far superior WWE experience for your money, but for too much money. And then the house shows disappeared after COVID forever. So that we live in these times of extremes. I dare say one of the reasons the TV's priced as it is because the house shows have disappeared. If you had an option to go to a neighbouring town for a third of the price, you might just do that. And then all of a sudden they're not putting arses in seats at Raw and SmackDown, are they? So they probably looked at the lack of house shows as an opportunity to jack those prices up even more on, for TV. I don't know. Like, it's, The wrestling was the big thing that stuck out to me. Just watching the wrestlers, I've forgotten what it's like to experience wrestlers at house shows dicking about and practicing spots that they might keep for a rainy day and all that kind of stuff. Having
running through a match they might do on the pay-per-view next month.
When you've got an older head for these things, that you can see what it is that they're trying there, but equally it's just as entertaining. Or you can see a wrestler stumble upon. I said it on the podcast before SmackDown aired. I knew for a fact that Solo blowing out the lantern to cut off the MFT's music was definitely going to make it to telly. That was instant. Well, that's too good. Like, they're not just going to chuck that away on a house show, It was such such a refreshing reminder. I do wish the tickets were cheaper. Obviously, I do, and I would certainly encourage AEW to pounce on it. Quite honestly,
Yeah.
I know that there'll be people on their phones taking pictures of a small crowd or empty seats or whatever, but I'm really not seeing who it doesn't benefit. These wrestler cage match pages are too small. Like they've gotten it's gone too far the other way in terms of a preservation of a wrestler's health, because you can see what the lack of reps is doing to the quality of the work. I've never taken a bump in my life, you know. It's just as a fan, as a brutal, cruel fan, you know.
Yeah, and I felt the opposite way, to be honest. For years, I was back when I pretended I cared about wrestlers' health. Like, I was like, yeah, it makes no sense why they all, you know, wasting the bump card on house shows when TV and pay-per-view is all that matters. And like you say, we've kind of gone in the extreme in the other direction as well. But totally with AEW, like, that's what a Wembley should be, isn't it? Like, because again, it's not about the gate, is it, Wembley? It's about like just the bums on seats. And if you can get a load of, they should be jumping on fucking Groupon and all kinds. Like, never mind blue light cards and the other things they jump through hoops to get on to just get extra bums on seats. Like
Taco Bell, like Sean's Rumble at the Alamo in '97.
Back of Mackey's tickets, did you ever used to get that? Was it just a Liverpool thing? Back of it, sorry, bus tickets where you get like the Mackey's like voucher, it'd be like 99p for a, I don't know, Big Mac meal or something like that. Again, that wouldn't get, speaking of the price of things, that wouldn't get you through the door in Mackey's, and I know that because I don't know if you remember this, but at 3 a.m. in Liverpool on a night out, I think I blew about 15 quid on a McDonald's just getting like a nuggets meal and a hamburger. We did go to McDonald's, we did. But like, do that instead of getting that on the back, or Burger King, like you say, or whatever it is, just throw in, 2 for 1 on AW tickets. Get on it, big Tom.
I couldn't agree more. And it's like I say, I don't think there's anybody that doesn't benefit. We know that we're dealing with like enormously moneyed billionaire enterprises. Gone are the days where the gate is going to dictate how much people get paid or how much the company gets to keep the water coolers in Titan Tower. We're not in those times, so why pretend like we are?
Yeah. And to that point, I was just going to say, before we move on from WWE stuff, got some big movers and shakers to talk about bouncing around. Like, for me, like, I did think the Belfast show was a good show, like, as far as the Raw goes. Like, and that's me saying that. I heard Cedric say it through Gritted Teeth today as well. Like, I don't know if I necessarily wish I was there. Like I say, I was happier getting me Iceland shopping, getting me the little shopping. We got like those, those chicken tenders that have got like, I don't know if it'd be for you, might be too much texture, but like the Doritos powder ones, to the point where I fell for the work. We got them from Iceland, and I was just looking at, I just assumed they were Doritos branded chicken tenders. It just turned out they'd changed their, I think instead of saying chili heat wave, it's like chili hot wave instead. I had a big bowl of them ready as we watched the show. Sat in Steph's mum's house, very comfortable, downstairs here watching the show. So maybe that was the better experience, but I did think it was, like, as far as like the crowd goes, the crowd were amazing for it as well. They actually, for once, I'll give them some credit 3 weeks into the year with the being the caveat that, like, knowing, again, for some of the mistakes they made last week in the marketing of it, knowing their audience, knowing, like, yeah, this is the spot where you do a Finn Balor match against CM Punk. This is where, if you're going to do these CM Punk TV matches, and there's been a couple of decent ones of recent vintage with Punk as world champion, you want to do it here. And, like, it did give it something memorable. Things happened in the undercard, like, obviously, as far as building the Rumble goes, which I know you're happy with as well. But, like, that a bad memory of, like, it's a 3.5 for the Garretts out there. It's a 3.5 star match, all right. There's a ceiling on it on a WWE TV match that you're gonna get. Maybe 3.75 might be where I push to on it, but, like, a really well done, nearly, the hometown / home country / home island, depending on how Michael Cole was selling it on Raw Boy, comes close, and then the champion wins in the end. Like, it was all very satisfying. It was a really nice bit of business, and, like, a solid bit of TV as well at the end of it all. It just felt like, they took great advantage of these crowds that this tour was giving them, especially this Belfast one.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree, and we did our Raw review today, and I tried to, like, articulate this point. I'm not sure how good a job I did, so I'll have a second bite of it now. I think, like, this entire run of European shows have been so much better than last year's, for the fact that, like, expectations in general have been a little bit lower by running the shows in the run up to the Rumble, as opposed to that pretty heavy duty Elimination Chamber to WrestleMania period. I think the fans that have decided to buy the tickets have gone in just hoping to have good times, and they haven't been anywhere near as performative as crowds. It hasn't been about, like, the fans getting themselves over. You've sensed that when, like, Drew got the long ovation on SmackDown before he turned all the crowd on him and stuff. But that just felt like they were receiving this brand new WWE champion. Why would you not go big for the first appearance of the British guy bringing the WWE title home, to London? But you get the point. Like, I think they knew, WWE being there, knew that there was going to be some big reactions for wrestlers. Finn Balor got that, like, the long run up before his entrance last night, but nothing felt like fans were in the building trying to get themselves over, and everything felt like, I don't know, atmospherically over the last 2 weeks, everything within WWE has felt like the audience have been excited for the show, but have been waited to be entertained. The guarantee of the hot crowd hasn't been there. The product has actually tried to earn the heat in the building, which I think was a big difference from last year. They were screwing up the booking at WrestleMania last year. They were making so many mistakes, but the crowd were almost letting them get away with it by just having big sing-songs and just sort of like cheering for everything and almost like detaching themselves from the action just to do their bit that they were going to do when Wrestler A came out, whatever. I didn't sense that here at all. The crowd felt like the crowd in the shows themselves felt simpatico. And the main event was the best example of it. I think, I don't know if we've lost sight of it and I'm just getting old or whatever, but I think there's a proper art to a TV title main event that is different from a big pay-per-view title defense. Like, they should feel different. They should feel slightly abbreviated, and they should have like a more, I don't know, a kind of not in an abrupt sense, but kind of a more succinct version of the epic title match story. And CM Punk's exquisite at that on his day, like absolutely exquisite at that. And obviously last night, all the terms and the conditions were right for it. Finn Balor, for a 2-week story with a 1-week payoff, had been really well built as this guy from the island of Ireland, or however it was that they were choosing to bill it.
They got that right in the end, which was good.
They got it there in the end, didn't they? Like, I would welcome, I think I've said this on the AEW coverage, I would welcome MJF's entire title run to be like this until he wrestles Kenny at Revolution. 2-3 week builds to one-off matches where it's more about the defending champion having a character than it is about the feud itself. I didn't mind Braun and Punk, but I wouldn't say I particularly loved it. This left it in the dust, and this had technically less story than Punk and Braun, because Punk's been feuding with the Vision for months, and like this had more, they were able to capture more heat around this one match and the story of, can like one veteran beat another just because he's got a bit of hometown crowd support? That kind of became the story as they wrestled their way through it. And both were perfect for it. Is it too early to say that I think this Punk world title reign is surprising a few people? He's holding this Seth belt. It's not what he came back for. It's not the story. It's a bit like a night one WrestleMania event of a title run. And yet I'm quite enjoying it.
Yeah, he's treating it like down to the gear, like it's a Brett Intercontinental title run or something like that. You know, he knows it's not the world title. It doesn't count, as you rightly say. It is the Seth Rollins belt there, but he's, again, with mixed success, some non-success. Like I love the Sammy match tail end of last year. Like he's trying to make it like that work rate kind of belt, isn't he? And you know, at this point in Punk's career, like there was a point, wasn't there, where it almost felt like he was fighting WWE to let him do TV matches. Same thing in AEW. It almost felt like he had similar to that, like that early run in AEW where he was running, you know, through the gambit of working QT Marshall and Powerhouse Hobbs and stuff like that. And you could tell he had to just bend Tony's in. Come on, let me on, just let me do a fucking match. That's clearly where he's most alive. I think our mate Ibu said it. Like he's at his best when he's getting reps. He's not quite at his best these days when he's cutting promos, unfortunately. But CM Punk the wrestler, you can still see a bit of it in there when you get matches like this from him as well. So like I'd love to shit on it, you know me, but I did enjoy it. I thought it was a good little bit of TV work we got there as well. And yeah, as the chat's saying there as well, getting the full Balor entrance and all of that helped with the atmosphere too.
Oh,
you know,
so
how important is fucking theme music to as you know better than anybody to WWE of all places. You've got to fucking get that right, haven't you? They managed to get that right as well. So no, it really worked for me as a main event of the show, and it was surprisingly flew by as a show for me. Again, as one that we pretty much enjoy on the Discord ripping into, and the weird bits to rip into in the under bits of it. I wasn't necessarily mad at the AJ and Gunther stuff. I think as far as giving you, maybe it's a story they could have told a little bit longer, but giving that little bit of doubt of what's happening with the AJ and Gunther match at the Rumble, I'll take that over no intrigue at all. The less said about it, as I've got noted there on the notes, the loser doors, the better. Pete Dunne and Tyler Bate under the mask. It was one of the first times I'd seen them, to be honest, in full character, trying to cut promos. Topless Pete Dunne just feels like it's something that should be illegal. Watching that on Raw, but yeah, there might be a certain man in a cape who worked ITV World of Sport. laughing his head off at some of these. What a homecoming it was for them compared to Finn Balor coming back. So yeah, there you go. They did definitely the Pete Dunne who worked OTT is very different than the Pete Dunne of today. But yeah, there was some other mixed bag stuff on the undercard, but it flew by as a show.
I'm somebody that fundamentally backs getting Bate and Dunne in masks because we tried with them as the British.
Can they just not speak about that?
Look, Pete Dunne, the most over and most interesting he ever was when he was playing the human dog as Butch, and I don't believe it one. So like, you might as well hire him in a mask. Like, I was backing the Bruiserweight as much as the next man. Like, but when it clearly wasn't going to,
he made bad life choices, didn't he? You could imagine he could have been. I was going to say that Punk and Devitt wasn't the great TV match of the week for me. It's still Pac and Darby Allin. That was another one though. That was like a stylistically very different match, but to your point, like a truncated 10-15 minute version of what they might have done on pay-per-view, and it was maybe better for it there as well. But I can still picture him in that universe. Be like, he'd have been in the Blackpool Combat Club, wouldn't he? It was like, Birmingham, Blackpool, same thing. He would have wormed his way into the Death Riders. Tyler Bate might be currently playing the role of Wheeler Yuta. Like, the world could have been at a very different place for the boys, and this is where they are.
People don't remember this. Like, Triple H, this is my Triple H tried. Like, he bloody loves his boring.
He does love them. That's the maddest thing. He loves them, and look where they are now.
He really. Do you remember when they were rebranded as New Cats Republic? Does that ring any bells for you? Like,
no, that was a T-shirt you got in Top Man. You know when you get like the jumbled words that are just like you on the front, Catch on the back, Republic on the side.
You can say what you want about the old game himself, but like as soon as he got the book, like, you had fucking Tommaso Ciampa dressed like Harley Race. You had Johnny Gargano come out to no pop. Tegan Knox and Emma got returns. He remembered.
Meanwhile, Vincent as marker pen. Nope.
nope. Like, all of them got a go. And like, if you're a Dunne and Bate truther in 2026, I think you're probably all right with the fact that they're goons for El Grande Americano. Have you seen how well the Dead Man's booking him as like the second coming of like Austin and Rock in AAA? Like, he's somehow this, like, so it's like, you know, when you see Brett working at USWA as a heel, like that's him in WWE. Meanwhile, like he's sort of like Rey Mysterio's like, he's the guy, he's the next guy. He's gonna get the belt off my like sort of deadbeat son. It's
So it's saying we're going to wait for the Dead Man to take over Road Dogg's job on SmackDown?
That's it, yeah. It's just when all the chairs shift. So at some point, Shawn Michaels is once again going to have Triple H carrying his bags when he gets Raw and SmackDown and sends Triple H back down to NXT. It'll all happen in the end.
Oh, for sure. Well, I mean, that's it. As far as like WWE in-ring content goes, that's kind of all we were going to mention today. I did want to mention, obviously, coming off SmackDown, and we kind of got a segment here for, I'm calling it the big transfer window, as like bodies seem to be shifting around, and there's a bit of breaking news, it seems like, on Powerhouse Hobbs this evening, or at least a theory on what's going on there. Like, I've got to ask you about Leon Slater turning up, obviously, and getting his SmackDown rub there as well. Like, maybe it's a bit different for like the likes of us who like, because I remember being in at a North Wrestling show and JP was feeding the young and hungry Leon Slater a bit of his pizza, and I don't even go back as far as some of the lads in our little group chats who were there in Sheffield shows when Leon Slater was like 15 and was barely legally allowed to work on the shows and working under other names and such like that. But like, it brought a little bit of, not a tear to my eye, but did kind of feel cool to see the boy done good. And yeah, I don't know if I buy this visa nonsense about why he couldn't do TNA and why he did WWE instead. I was actually surprised not to see him on Raw this week. I almost feel like the injury to Javon Evans might be an open, if it is an injury, obviously, depending on how real that worry was for a concussion with him. I could see that being a spot he could line up into, and he's one of the, I think based on what we're going to go into in a minute, TNA and the TV we saw last week and the paper we saw at the weekend, I think the news is definitely a couple of days removed. Looks a bit shinier now, Leon Slater getting out of that mess, and yeah, he's probably going to be at a Fed boy going forward.
Yeah, that was it. When you mentioned Leon Slater, I thought we'd already jumped to the next bullet point you've put on the list of me of TNA's bad week, because it was like a very good match, but it was just a funny one watching in the context of what a lot of us had seen 24 hours earlier, wasn't it? It was I just, TNA got into bed with WWE. They welcomed themselves to be this fighter brand, to create this total bullshit. The new number 2 that like your Bully Rays and your Chris Jericho's and all these other bad faith actors can power on about, like anyone with half a brain even believes. Like, they know that they're playing to the absolute lowest common denominator with this irrelevant and incorrect
They
take.
just know no
about
one watches TNA, don't they? That's the thing. It's like they're talking about TNA, but like it's TNA from 15 years ago, and like it's like that Simpsons meme, isn't it? When you're trying to throw Barney out the pub, and then actual TNA pops up behind you, and it's fucking Ash by Elegance or whatever it is. It's like, no, this is a very different fucking thing to what they're pretending exists.
It's like that Simpsons joke where anybody references a Simpsons joke and it's from 20 years ago because nobody has a Simpsons reference from the past, like since 2000 or something. No, I was like, I thought the Leon Slater match was good, but I wasn't doing as many cartwheels as Leon Slater himself. I just thought it was a very, very good bit of business. I actually quite enjoyed Carmelo Hayes. I've didn't think that this particular Carmelo Hayes was ever going to work. I remember him as a supposed work rate babyface in NXT, and it was quite boring. And then it wasn't until he got over as a heel, and then he came up to the main roster and looked small and all of that. I want The Miz to get some flowers because 2026 is his year. Like that little run with The Miz that set him away as this solid, good hand mid-card babyface. I think like he was just as good in this match as Leon Slater. Like a really, really, again, strong TV match that was more exhibition in feel. Leon Slater got that, when his name flashed up on the screen, that was where the pop was. So I still think there were quite a few people in the building that either couldn't see him or didn't necessarily know for definite that it was him. And then that confirmation, it was a free hit from there, wasn't it? As soon as you heard the cheer for his name, you realize, oh, this is just going to be like a show-off match for Leon Slater. I hope he does get signed. Fuck TNA. Like, so you get... Like you get what you do. It's a bollocks enterprise. Like, can we just jump to Powerhouse Hobbs for a second, right? Because I've got a bit of a soapbox to get on with Powerhouse Hobbs. I have been told, right, as I proudly, like, in defiance of this idea that like a wrestling company isn't a sports team. I'm here to say, yes, it fucking is, and it always has been. And I think I make no secret of the team I play for, right? And I tell you how I know more people are lying to you when they say that they don't have a team in this game is because when this news broke, there was definitely one side of an audience that was disappointed and one side that was very happy. And that was them. I was thrilled with the news that Hobbs' contract was coming due because I was like,
you sent it back, mate.
What a brilliant get for the Fed. This is it, right? My team is getting a talent that I want to see. Just as the AEW fans were going, that's a real shame, that is. Like, don't tell me people don't have sports teams in this wrestling war because they fucking do. And Hobbs, was a great marker of that. Rusev and Mally Black were that the opposite reason. I was thinking, nah, you're all right. I think we've got good cover in those positions. I don't think
squad players.
That's it. I don't think we need a third string right winger. But Hobbs. What a shock and a fun surprise to read it. Like, I think I read it the next morning. So they'd booked the trios title match for Collision, and it was after that match had been booked that I saw the news, and I was buzzed. I hope WWE get him in. I hope they don't dick around. I hope they just look, if they want to be motivated by spite and push him just so fans in buildings can say Tony fumbled, more power to them, because it means I get Powerhouse Hobbs not being under yet another wrestler's tutelage and not being under another wing and not being treated like a baby by QT Marshall or fucking Team Taz.
TV, fucking hell.
Or how many times is and the Ops and Samoa Joe, how many times have I seen Powerhouse Hobbs of all people get his hair ruffled by scared mid-carders that don't want him to take their spot in AEW? Let's have him ruffle some feathers in WWE.
Well, this is the thing. Obviously, it's breaking today of Sean Rascalz saying on Fightful Select that it looks like Hobbs, at least sources close to him, are saying that he's signed with WWE. Now, I'm so mixed on it. I haven't had the chance to talk about it on a podcast, and it's one of those where I think we can all see over the years in AEW, you list that laundry list of scenarios he's been in where he has been, in stables or, speaking of what he's been doing current day in 2026 AEW, or looking like he's about to get a push, or as that one TV match where you go, see, there's money in Hobbs. And I was probably one of the people who didn't necessarily saw it, but not necessarily as much as other people did with him. But seeing there was something there and seeing them not capitalize. But you're right, it's time, isn't it? They've had half a decade to capitalize on it, and to the point where it did get too late. I actually think, contrary to what I think a lot of people are saying in here, and I understood the talking point at the time. To be honest, I probably said it myself when they made the bizarre decision to put the title on Samoa Joe at the tail end of last year, and then you saw again Hobbs killing it in a TV match with Hangman Page. I think to a letter, all of the podcasters said the same thing. Fuck, it should be Hobbs on that role. It's probably good he wasn't, though, isn't it? It's probably good that, like, imagine the shit that Tony Khan would be getting from us all right now if he put the AEW World title on Hobbs, only for him to, like, in an alternate universe, debut on SmackDown on Friday and, bump Leon Slater from the card or something like that. Like, maybe that would have been the difference. Maybe
he might have signed a contract, mightn't he?
Maybe that would have been the difference. Yeah.
Hobbs was at Forbidden Door. I think Hobbs was one of the people you would have seen a lot of people getting pictures with, because after the show, he just probably wanted to go out and experience a bit of like fan support, because how often is he just basically pushed to the back on, and he's probably thinking,
all the time.
I look like me, and if I go out and walk around the bars in the Millennium Dome, people are going to want to stop. And he passes every airport test, Like,
and anytime I've gone to an AEW show, whether it be Vegas, whether it be at Wembley, you always see that Hobbs is always wandering around, almost like he wants people to see him, and he wants to like kind of get those reactions there as well. And all that said, like you say, if that alternate universe did happen, and if really the reality is, if they were going to do something like that with him, they had a lot of time. It wasn't just these last 3 months where they could have done it. They could have done it years ago. Maybe if they'd have shown that level of investment in him, he might have not, if reports are right, taken a lower ball offer from WWE to be on their telly and try the other side. But like, on the sports team analogy, yeah, you've got me. I am an AEW homer in that. But like, I also you can see that, the fact that there is an option for somewhere else to go. And I reckon me and you, Michael, might be sitting on a podcast somewhere in 6 months, and he's probably, based on the people who've jumped back either direction, he'll probably be in the same position. I feel like in WWE, it'll be like, he'll end up in a stable. He'll end up in a situation that maybe, mirrors quite closely what he was doing in AEW. Like, again, it's been talked about by more qualified podcasters than us, whether Triple H knows what to do with black talent. And, he hasn't proven otherwise so far, and given a lot of food for thought for the critics out there with him. But like, I could also see that. I could also see him landing in pretty much the exact same spot. But my point would be the same point I made with Phoenix and Penta, the same point I made with Ricky Starks, the same point I made with the other wrestlers. If you're in that wrestler's shoes, you give it a try, don't you? You try going to the other team. You try, West Ham offer you a contract, or you Jack Grealish and Everton offer you a contract, or you're in that position, or you're out of favour in the squad, or you're a squad player and you want that number 9 shirt to be yours. You want to at least try at the other club. It might turn out the number 9 shirt ends up not being yours after all, and you don't get it there either. But that's the benefit of having, two, at least, maybe not 3, strong companies going on. You can try it out and you can see where you land. So, like, it does make sense for all parties at this point. Like I say, I don't think, if it wasn't coming in that little window with the Hangman stuff, it was never coming for Powerhouse Hobbs. And yeah, he would have been in a similar position in AEW going forward. So why not try?
You got me thinking there, is Granit Xhaka CM Punk, because he fell out with everybody at Leverkusen, and Sunderland signed him and everybody goes, he's probably too washed, and now he's having his Drew McIntyre feud as the Sunderland captain, where he's like, Jesus, he's still got something left. No, you're totally right. I have to apply some balance here. Like, this could fail, this could, or he could just be just another. Because
the podcast in that, what ones have been successes and what ones have been failures from jumping over, what can you really point to?
I think it's far more interesting when you get a story like this. I had no interest in Rusev and Aleister Black returning, and it's everything's easier to say in hindsight. But I had no faith really there were going to be particular game changers in WWE. I thought like it was notable that they were jumping back, because it felt like one of the first times that kind of thing had happened since we had the 2 companies again. But I didn't expect them to make an impact. But visually, it's more interesting, isn't it, when the guy hasn't been in WWE first? I think that's what you get a certain amount of time to milk that, if nothing else. I hope I want in 2026. My big thing, Alvarez put me onto this at the end of 2025 when he started talking about, I think it was Javon Evans and Leon Slater, and he was talking about them in terms of the age. It's just like, who made the rule that like 21 is too young and you've got to get to 30 and 35 and 40 even before you even get given a shot? Like, I want all them rules torn up. I want, like, the NXT call-ups have been really well handled on TV. So if I look how well it's going for Trick Williams, sort of Jordan Grace has slotted right in and is going face-to-face with Jade Cargill. Like, I need to see this system functioning well again. And I don't think Hobbs is a guy that you kind of leave on NXT to almost settle into the WWE furniture. I think he's a far more interesting prospect. Just
being Raw,
rocking up and wrecking shop on Raw and SmackDown, just like almost like shocking the system a little bit. And like you don't need to necessarily wait until the Raw after WrestleMania or all those kind of functional. Like Chris Jericho's probably coming back at the Royal Rumble. It doesn't mean that other people can't as well. There's space, for more wrestlers to. SmackDown's 3 hours. You can find a Powerhouse Hobbs match or a segment a week in 3 hours.
Yeah, and I think he's a more interesting concept like that, in that they're gonna, some of the rougher edges that make him interesting in AEW, they're gonna smooth around them, and it's probably gonna make him less interesting to me. But I'd rather that, if at least if you get to watch that happen on Raw and SmackDown, he's a more interesting, different concept, isn't he? He's different than what they've got.
AEW sent him out with a literal book of Hobbs, and he got that over. But and we loved him in spite of it. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? It's like he's not somebody that hasn't had to deal with his fair amount of bollocks, and we're still talking about him like a guy that can do it. And I think he's not young. He's 0 years old in WWE TV age, but he's a mid-30s guy. He's ready, I
think that's young. That's all for a Premier League player at this point, but I still think it's young enough for a wrestler. Yeah. But he's at that point where he can't waste 3 years, can he, in NXT? And again, that's the gamble he's taken. Like something again, speaking it's like the ticket conversation before. If it's true that, in your words, the market leader are offering him less money than AEW, but he's taking it so that he can go to the main roster than go to NXT. I mean, that's a very interesting state of affairs. And me, I don't watch wrestlers' bank accounts, but I would like to hope that gets made up for him if and when he is a success. But as a calculated risk, as somebody looking at it going, I don't want to spend 4 years in NXT. I don't want to be Ricky Starks. I think that's the move, and he can offer something different there as well. And I honestly, I won't miss the Powerhouse Hobbs that we've had in AEW for this while. Trios champion that we got on Collision last week. But he's one of those wrestlers where it's the idea of him. We're all going to be crying into our chips about on the AEW side, and it's whether that was ever going to be a reality or whether it's going to be a reality on the other channel. And I've got to say, while we're talking the big transfer window going on right now, obviously the other big story, and Lord knows what's going on with Trey Miguel, feels like it's something higher up from the TV side, and probably things he's said, unfortunately, on the internet over the years that have meant he's been Jay Briscoed a bit in this situation. But the Rascalz jumping from TNA to AEW, it just makes things more interesting, this stuff happening, doesn't it? It's very Man City or Chelsea signing 3 speedy left wingers when they've already got 4 of them on the bench. But it's something, isn't it? I mean, that is literally what it is. If they got all 4 of them, it's like signing 4 left backs in the same transfer window, isn't it? I don't actually know really what the Rascalz going to offer you there. A multitude of wrestlers who on ROH or barely get reps on Collision are going to give you, but Lord knows Tony likes a certain type, and maybe they'll maybe the weed smoking gimmick that again I know Sidge is a big fan of will make them a little bit different than all the other concepts, but at least it's something, it's another jump, and it's an interesting one to happen on, like I say, the week of TNA's TV on AMC debut.
The football analogy here, don't you? It's like Man City signing Burnley's James Trafford and then immediately signing Donnarumma. So Burnley without a first-choice goalkeeper and Man City have got one of the best in the world. TNA really needed the Rascalz, but AEW were like, we've got about 300 high-flying wrestling tag teams, but we'll take yours anyway just to have them, just to keep them just in reserve, just to put them on. We'll use them in cup games. We'll use them on Collision tape.
Collision is the cup game, Collision and a bit of ROH sorted. ROH is definitely whatever the Carling Cup's called these days. Collision's the FA Cup. It works.
I don't know where I stand on the Rascalz at this point. I definitely felt like WWE completely hobbled Wes Lee by forcing that heel turn a couple of years ago. He was on the verge of something as a singles wrestler, and his offense lends itself to a baby face, and they insisted on doing that thing where no, you're going to be a bad guy because we're telling you to be a bad guy. And it didn't really work. The act, to me, feels a little bit dated now. You know how WWE wrestlers are scripted to be actual children in the way that they bicker with each other? It's not much better in AEW. They're just teenagers. They think that getting stoned is funny. They think that swearing is funny.
Tony's been watching House Party on repeat from the early 90s. Not DCW behavior.
They're it's still basically it's like if WWE is the junior school playground, AEW is only the senior school playground. You've got John Moxley and his gang of hard lads walking around, sort of thinking they're the tough, trying to scare you out of the sort of playing football on the yard, that kind of thing. You've got like Tony Storm knows the best sexual swear words, and like you learn one, and you have to quietly check what it means later on because you don't want to. It's like you want to save face and pretend like you know what they all are. Like there's sort of a what the fuck's a Nuru massage? You have to go sort of check out afterwards. Like that's all like AEW is, and the Rascalz have just added to that by being the token stoners that have got the take me to your dealer poster on the bedroom wall with the big inflated alien head. It's like
picture of Cheech and Chong in the background.
Yeah, it's fine, you know. Like they'll do. It's a bit like I feel like with Hobbs, the conversation is the uncertainty. With the Rascalz, the conversation is the certainty. You know exactly how they'll slot in AEW, and that's fine. But like nobody's pulling up trees, no pun intended. In terms
Myron
of,
Reed's probably got the highest ceiling out of them as far as showing
I would agree with that.
Slightly different, but again, it's the circumstances with which they're bringing them in that doesn't necessarily make you think they're going to be anything other than trios fodder or, like you say, Collision and ROH fodder. But I'm with you, and by the way, in the chat there, it's less that the movie version, it's more the TV version, it's more that 70s show version. Or like, have you ever seen the Do Where's My Car? It's my dad's favorite film. Weirdly, my dad's never smoked weed in his life, but I don't think it took about 4 or 5 watches and me telling him for it to find out that was a pot smoking film, because in it, pot smoking, how old am I? But like, because they literally just MTV chop it all out, don't they? Like, any scene that's got a bit of smoke in it, or it's got somebody smoking, you flash forward to the scene where they're all already high and you don't know how they got there. My dad just never worked it out. I think he just thought they were having a bit of a drink. Like, that's pretty much what you're getting here. You get a bit of smoke, but that's about as hardcore as you're getting until the TV execs get involved.
I'll say this though, right? If there was any bit of Tony Khan that just knew he was taking the piss out of TNA, like, more power to him for that. I liked. I know, like, PR Tony that you saw in Helwani isn't necessarily to everybody's cup of tea. They'd rather he go a bit off the rails. But I think at long last, he started doing a few things that have just been a bit of an up yours to, or like he should counter program the other way. He should if you can't counter program, he should counter promote. And there's ways in which if WWE are going to take your time slot or take your town or anything like that, think of the other ways that you can hurt them and then have some fun with it. Sign some TNA wrestlers just for the crack. Like, you know, move your show back a few hours earlier so that you claim all the conversation online, whatever. Keep doing it. Like, I'm all in favor of that, because there's no I don't know, there's no real merit in being the babyface promotion. I don't think at this point. I think we all had fun with like AEW as the babyface promotion for a while. WWE are never going to be that. They're always going to be the evil empire. So you might as well have the freedom to, like they're the ultimate bit. They're my then now. As I said to Charlie, my son, at the house show, it's like, don't hug me, hug the Fed. It will be with you forever. They say so at the start of the event, kid. But like, just go for it. Like, if you're Tony Khan and you've got a little opportunity, little wins like this, little cynical ones, take them. Like, have a look at who else is on that useless like episode of Impact and see if there's anything that you like and think I'll have that as well. Like, why not?
And especially, you know, in light of Matt Hardy saying the quiet part out loud now, isn't he? He did like an interview last week. He was like, oh yeah, you know, basically the entire agreement exists because of AEW. Like, we all know that. So I think you can. Yeah. I would still push for AEW to try and be the goodie, but like you can be too pure a babyface, can't you? You've got to get in the muck a little bit, and I think that's what this situation is a little bit for it as well. But I mean, before we talk some more AEW, did you have any? I mean, I just buried TNA under the sun last week as far as the TV debut went, and I watched Genesis as the weekend. Actually, some of the in-ring was actually pretty decent on Genesis. It's just, you know, it's the production, it's the tone of everything, especially when you go back to the TV. It's the, the not learning the lessons of the past of it all, and wheeling out fucking Elias and wheeling out Bully Ray on commentary and wheeling out Dixie Carter on TV, which until, again, I caught up on it over the weekend. I didn't 100% believe that was a real thing. Like, that opportunity for TNA to be anything. And I think when AEW launched, I think in my kind of take on it was always like, there's just no room for anyone else now. That's what we've seen with New Japan over the last few years. That's come to fruition. Yeah. New Japan, even, who operate in a completely different market, have struggled to find their place within at least the worldwide market, and obviously with the damage AEW caused, like, over there. I never really saw the argument for like a third viable brand, but I know Meltzer was always pushing that. I can see it a little bit more now. And, you know, as much as I've enjoyed the AEW TV over the last few weeks, we can get into, and as much as, you know, sounds like you're enjoying the WWE TV over the last while. There probably is a spot there somewhere for some kind of alternative to exist, but it's not fucking this. It's not whatever they put on the air last week on Thursday, and it's really, despite some of the okay wrestling that took place on Genesis of the weekend, it's not really what they provided there as well. It's like we said, there's a TNA that a Bully Ray and someone like that's going to pretend exists, and then there's the TNA that exists in reality, and that reality is always going to smack you in the face whenever you give them another chance. And like I say, I've saw about 15 different I'm never giving TNA another chance think pieces this week as well, and I think we're all probably in that position now.
I think, yeah, I'd be very surprised if like everybody didn't come to the same conclusion within the first half an hour of that Impact. Yeah. Like for a
there was like a little window, wasn't there, when AJ came out and they hadn't quite shown the empty seats yet, and it looks a little bit big time, I guess, for TNA. Yeah, AJ's getting a big pop, and then it was like, yeah, and now I'm not gonna say too much because there's gonna be a load of, we need to make some time for the wrestling. Henceforth, 19 minutes worth of wrestling took place after it, but there was a couple minute window there. And it looked like there might be something.
Well, like as you said, I think like for a while now, there's been this idea that there is this need for this third brand and this third option. And I think after watching that Impact, everybody looked and went, "Oh yeah, there is a need for a third option and a third brand. It's not that, but there's a need for it." Like, what is?
Court Bauer's ears pop up. Billy Corgan's like, "Oh, maybe." Yeah.
Like, if all it's done, I think, is make that question harder to answer. And probably being asked louder by certain sections of the wrestling fan base, because TNA once again, just like it was even in the period where I genuinely loved it, like basically in the same period that they showed all the clips from on like last Thursday's Impact, from that same 2000s period that we all genuinely seem to love, or at various points.
Challenge TV TNA, that's hashtag TNA.
Had that, like the wrestling channel going into Challenge, a little bit of Bravo, the UK tours, all that kind of, I would say generously between about like 2004 and maybe 2011, because once Hogan and Bischoff kind of chased us all off for good, it wasn't an alternative then, and you'd be lying if you said it was. It had like the X Division had flashes of being an alternative, but it was still so much of it was attempting to be a version of WWE rather than its own self.
That's why AJ Styles, when he comes out for these spots, and I was like, oh, he was the face of TNA, and it's like, he was, but it was begrudgingly he was. Like, there was never really a point where he really was. We all thought he was. We all thought he should be. But was he really? Like, that was always the problem, wasn't it?
He was the Sting of TNA because...
Exactly.
Until Sting went to WWE, he just happened to have never been to WWE. So he fit that profile quite nicely. TNA used to be like obsessed with homegrown talent, didn't it? But a lot of the time it was just because they were just people you hadn't seen jump yet. Yeah. And then sooner or later that became less of a thing. It was rubbish. I was really pleased it was rubbish. I think a lot of people that wanted that to succeed for very cynical, grifting reasons had a lot of egg on their face, and that's nice. I like the idea of Tommy Dreamer and Bully Ray and Matt Hardy and that screaming loser off Busted Open having shitty days. I like the idea that Eric Bischoff can't lie when he's being filmed by Conrad, having to give his honest opinions. Just like a really good day. For like, I don't consider myself like a wrestling internet hater at this age and time of my life, but it did light a little flame of that in me, because there are so many people I wanted to eat shit, like on sort of TNA being forced to actually stand up for itself and proven it can't really. Like, has it ever done what a wrestling promotion is supposed to do and just simply make money by being itself? No, it's constantly been bankrolled and backed. And you could have 5 people in the building, you could have 5,000 people in the building, but it's always some money mark and a few wrestlers creaming off the top that keep that, I don't even want to say train on the tracks, that keep that promotion in existence, keep the lights on. Somebody at the last second, like zombified hands, crawls up to the meter and slots another 50 pence, and we just keep going. It's like, I think for like us long-standing people, there was an expectation that it was going to be this shit. Like, what is a TNA?
That's half why we watched it, isn't it?
Yeah. Like, do you remember when it first went to HD and when they would have these big nights and it was Hogan and Bischoff on January 4th? There were loads of examples where it was TNA's big night and they'd fuck it. And this was just the rich tradition of that, wasn't it?
I'm glad you said it, because it's all a myth, really, isn't it? Like when Dixie Carter got wheeled out and she was like, 23 years ago, and you're like, fucking hell, never mind time, Jesus Christ, how is this possibly a thing? It is, that the analogy is completely true. It's WCW in the 90s, isn't it, in a lot of ways? And like you say, with the Usus thing and stuff like that, and those of us who are young enough, like, I've got the nostalgia to look back on it, and we can pretend that, you know, Sting was the guy, at least until he became Crow Sting. But was he really? You know, that's what the adults would argue about when it came to like Observer Hall of Fames and such as well. But it's similar in the same way of like, did they ever have their shit together? Is there a TNA that really exists other than in our mind's eye that we can go back to? And I know there's going to be people like you and Cameron, who's on our Discord and writes for Voices of Wrestling, who I do hope to actually sit down with at some point and maybe do something on this relaunch of TNA, like what he wanted out of it and what elements of previous TNA you want to brought back. But you're exactly right, it was the most fucking TNA TV you could get. And again, same with the follow-up with the pay-per-view being too little too late. Like, there is no other way TNA could have done something like this. Of course they're going to shoot themselves in the foot. Of course they're going to wheel out, you know, people you don't necessarily want to see. And of course they're going to remind you of the authority figure storylines that are going on and the shite that's on the telly. And you'll also still get that little moment where, you know, Santana comes out and it's like, oh, okay, there's our one shining star, and they'll still fuck that, you know, whatever that story is as far as him overcoming the big one. I think even the people who are invested in his story have just been completely, you know, wiped out at this point. Again, stop me if you've heard that before in history of TNA and WCW too. Like, it's all too little compared to everything else going on. Yeah, when you're talking about like a week of TV where Fandango's retirement, and I do feel like they should have wheeled him out at the Hill Dickinson just for our benefit on his retirement week, and that would have made it in. It's one of the better things that's on the TV. That kind of tells you where you are, doesn't it? And yeah, it's fucking most. But if we're all honest with ourselves, most of us watched it knowing that was probably going to be the case and hoping to laugh at it, like you say, hoping to get one over on the Matt Hardys and the Bully Rays of the world, because that's all TNA is at this point in life. But
I just sort of like, I want to, maybe I'm sort of subconsciously sticking up for someone like a Garrett Kidney here. Like, I'll listen to his TNA, his like history podcast. Like, and it sings for me because it speaks to a very specific several year period where I genuinely looked forward to each Impact for better and worse, you know, like the pay-per-views, the stuff I remember from TNA, I remember as fondly as anything I'll remember from watching wrestling. We've talked about what a footprint they had in the UK because of how good those tours were, how good the house shows were. Like, what a value for money, great wrestling experience you got going to see TNA in the UK. It's not like
that was available to everybody, wasn't it, when it was on Challenge, compared to having to pay the Sky Sports subscription. So yeah, though it does all.
I've not got this hatred for the brand TNA. I've in the same token, I refuse to just have this like, and this is me talking, I refuse to have this blind loyalty to the brand of TNA because I remember what it felt like. I bet you've got one as well. It's like it's like reliving like old relationships. Everyone's got a breaking point story with TNA. You allowed yourself to get hurt the first time, the second time, the third, but then there was that one time where you were just like, I can't keep getting hurt by this promotion. Mine was Bobby Roode not beating Kurt Angle that time.
Yes.
And when Hulk Hogan went on the radio that weekend and said Bobby Roode's a piece of shit and he's not going to win.
And then they switched to James Storm.
Summer, and and I was like, I'm done. I'm fucking done. Don't ask for like 6 months of my love for Bobby Roode to just be flushed. And everyone's got one because that was TNA. It got everybody in the end.
That's probably more what I'm saying. It comes from a place of hate because I was into that period. Austin areas, the options C, like run and all of that. Like there was definitely like a 3 or 4 month period. I'm sure me and you were probably both on the UK fan forum singing the praises of the TNA TV. They were trying things. They were bringing in weird CZW wrestlers to be in the X division. Jigsaw was turning up on TV. I was loving it, like the EC3 Spud like period, like the 2 little mini feuds they did. I was loving all that. So yeah, that's my Scott D'Amore's glory era.
It goes back to Monty Brown, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Monty Brown was enough for some people to be like, well, I'm done now. That was like 05 when he joined Planet Jarrett, and you're like, they're never going back after that. Raven,
yeah, Raven, everyone wanting to beat Jeff. Like we've all had those periods. I mean, like I say, I'm sure I'm gonna. I've invited a slew of comments now. No, there was this Scott D'Amore period from 2000, in the middle of the 2000s, across a year and a half until whichever knobhead, Russo, Bischoff, whoever came in and ruined it. But that's more the point, isn't it? Eventually, somebody would come in and ruin it, and this perfect TNA never really ever got off the ground at it for any, at least sustained period worthy of this fucking zombie course corpse run that we've had this entire time. But yeah, we're not going to be checking in on as far as Impact reviews week to week. But like maybe I'll get you in on at some point to talk maybe some of the the slim positives you can talk coming out of the last week or so, and maybe what they can do to put things right. But I mean, moving on from there a little bit before we do get out of here, we've got some Patreon questions, and if you do have any extra questions, throw them in the live chat, and we'll get to them at the end. We haven't talked much AEW obviously over the last while. I did the weekend show 2 weeks ago now with Andy Ogden catch up on the TV. Obviously, Dynamite coming up this Wednesday as well, as we are in one of those weird periods. Like I'm literally back in the UK/Ireland for 6 weeks, and there's no AEW pay-per-view, and it just feels wrong. I was looking forward to getting to stay up for one, and it does look like they're not counting at this point, not counter programming the Rumble at any point. So we're in a weird bit of TV and a weird bit of maybe rebuilding and restructure and setting up the fact that MJF's the champion and there's multiple people following. Obviously, that thread's gonna continue on to this week's Dynamite as well. But yeah, any positives coming out of it? The little bit of TV we've had over the last while for you. I'm loving Kenny Omega being back in the title picture. I'm glad that again, speaking of TNA, dotting that I, crossing that T, and actually doing the Josh Alexander match on Dynamite this week. I presume at some point we'll get an Andrade match with Kenny Omega, and then maybe we can just fuck the Don Callis family into the sun, at least when it comes to the Kenny Omega verse. But I like what they're doing, at least from that point of view. I enjoyed Bandito, as a title challenger of the week against the MJF last week. I was going to argue with you that was the world title match of the week to talk about, but I don't know. It's a bit different when Bandito's already got the ROH world title and probably 27 other belts as well, that just make things he's a little bit, as a challenger of the week, it's always a bit weird that when you do that in AEW compared to WWE. But yeah, any of those positives for you, or what have you been enjoying from the last bit of TV?
Well, yeah, like I was starting the year on a positive note because I was ultra super mega high on MJF returning and winning the world title, and then I went onto the GRAPPL Discord and decided not to share that take. No. But I feel like maybe there's a little bit of Benno in me, because I feel like sometimes with MJF, I quite angrily want to be proven right. Like I feel like MJF is such this interesting polarizing figure, but with polarizing figures, there are two poles, and you can actually have the positive one if you want. And already I'm very encouraged by the way they're going to potentially book this MJF title run. They've the Devil and Adam Cole and what went wrong in the 2023 one has maybe revealed that he can't just do long-term stories with everybody. Not everything can be MJF versus CM Punk. Not everything can be MJF versus Cody Rhodes. But MJF versus a guy for 3 weeks and then another guy for 3 weeks, while the actual opponent, Kenny Omega, builds in the background, is, I think, an inspired way to book this title run. Bandito flows effortlessly into Brody King. Brody King battered John Cruz on Dynamite with the standby match, and that immediately opened the door to why now you can have Brody King versus MJF as the next TV mini program that MJF can skin of his teeth retain his title. What he's doing, and I would even say there's one more after that, but what MJF the heel is doing is retaining his title by the skin of his teeth and presenting this idea of a fighting champion. But what he's actually doing is avoiding the big problem, which is a Kenny Omega rising up along the side. It's a Hangman and Swerve trying to get themselves back into the picture. He's avoiding the big problems while dealing with the small scale mess in front of him. And I really like that as a device because it's for me, it's the way you should use a heel champion, because you've still got to build that title reign. Look at what went wrong again with the Hangman Page title reign and how there's so much quality stuff in there, but you kind of forget about it because it doesn't feel very week to week. It doesn't feel like he's a massive presence. MJF, for better and worse, and I know a lot of the people that are listening to me speaking now hate this, is a presence, is a constant presence. He's a top guy that wants to be there, and he wants to he's cut from the Attitude Era cloth that the world champion should be on TV every week, that he should be in the highest rated segments, that you should always be building to something. And I back it. I like MJF full stop, but I back him as the world champion, and I've got good early signs from this. I think Swerve and Hangman is an inexplicably bad act, and I'm glad that they've sort of already started to show cracks and creaks. It's so weird, isn't it? But I'm glad that relationship is already creaking under the pressure of the world title. When Kenny came out and said, I want to be the champion. And Hangman was sort of, yeah, good luck, Kenny. And Swerve was pissed off about it. I thought, great. Kenny Omega has inadvertently become the new division between Swerve and Hangman, and it couldn't come soon enough because their buddy cop thing I thought was cringeworthy. So the fact that Swerve's just back in singles action against Kevin Knight, like a little TV banger where he feels like he's got to. So Kenny's fighting Josh Alexander, isn't he?
Yeah.
And like Kenny's this like slightly broken down version of himself, and he's going to have a hard night against Josh. Swerve Strickland beating Kevin Knight is almost making a point of, like, I can dust a Kevin Knight and you're going to struggle with a Josh Alexander. What makes you think you're on my level, Kenny Omega? Like, I love that competitive storytelling going on that pulls Swerve away from having to be like Hangman's mate with the weapons. Like, it was so
both of them
bizarrely bad, like for the pair of them as characters. And already I think MJF as the champion has been this agent of the good kind of chaos for this challenging pack. I really do.
I think for me, it's right message, wrong messenger. Like I say, the positive is, and I think a lot of us who grew up on American TV wrestling, I don't even think it's purely a WWE thing. I think there is something to that. This is the problem with the Hangman reign. You want your world champion to be your main character. We just grew up with it. Did we? Whether it was WWE or it was WWF, you want the inset promos where there's a few going on, but like the heel never forgets. And Hulk Hogan, I'm coming for you next. Like, you want that, and I think MJF has very much pilled it in that way. It's just how we got there, isn't it? It's obviously cutting. I think I'm definitely higher than you and Matthew on what they could have done with the Hangman Page title run. I'm actually probably as low as you guys on, especially now, the inexplicable decision to put the title on Samoa Joe and use that as a means to get here with MJF. Really makes no sense now that we're back to MJF anyway with a different heel champion on top. And like I say, MJF has worn, as you note from our Discord, worn out his welcome the last couple of years with most of us, as far as like having these promising little structural things, or having this, like Swerve does, this attention to detail with every little thing that he's doing on TV. And that's him. That's him going, no, I want Bandido to be, hot enough to work him on TV. ROH title in 2005, Benno, it hurts inside, be damned. We're doing that match. That should be a bigger deal, but it's not, unfortunately. Brody, I want to be hot to a point. I want everyone coming for me. I want Swerve and Hangman to come apart at the seams because they're coming for me. I want Kenny Omega, and that's a big babyface move for me. Like, if MJF's been listening to any of the podcasters who've been fucking moaning about it for 3 years, that Kenny Omega, one of the greatest wrestlers of all time, should always at least be thinking about being world champion, or should be at least interested and not just arsing about with his mates. I almost feel like he's like, because it felt like they were setting something up, didn't they, with Kenny in the books? And like, Kenny's been yanked out of that universe. He's still got Don Callis holding onto his ankles, but he's been yanked into a more consequential universe where it matters. That's a big positive for me, and I honestly think that probably come from the brain of MJF, so I'll take that too. It's just, we're in that honeymoon phase where he's going to do something stupid next week or the week after, or he's going to have a terrible promo segment like the 4-way promo segment he did in Manchester, and we're all going to go, but MJF's got this side to him as well, and this is why in early 2026 we're all still not ready for MJF in this position. So that's where it's like right message, wrong messenger for me. But I do like that. I like that everyone's going for the title. I like the title's the most important thing in AEW, and that's the way things should be. And like I say, Kenny Omega in the mix, like hook it to my veins. I love that too.
Just before we move away from AEW, if it's only like a brief touching on them, can I talk to you, because we haven't done this off or on air, about Jon Moxley for a second, right? Because going into the
Wrestler of the Year 2025.
Yeah, half of it. Going into the CT,
3/4.
I was once again the biggest Jon Moxley fan. He's kind of really won me round. I just love that promo that he cut before the C2 about how it's playoff season now, and you could see all the Death Riders staring at him going, this guy's lost it. This guy has lost it. And he's like, the real quiz is now. I'll win the C2, and then that'll prove it. And then he did, right? He wins the C2, and then he cuts that kind of like perplexing babyface promo, but then he starts living the words. So he's actually this fighting champion, and he's embodying babyface qualities again. And the only people he's picking fights with are the people that are picking fights with him. Like, I'm with it because I'm, to use WWE parlance here, letting it play out. But like, are we going to get this Death Riders turn, or has Jon Moxley played the master politician role of, well, I'm the top heel, so I need to beat everybody until we get to the babyface turn? And now he's the top babyface, and he's still beating everybody.
But I've got a belt now, so you can't beat me.
I've got to keep winning. If this ends up with babyface Death Riders and we're right back to 2023 Blackpool Combat Club, I'm chucking in my John Moxley cards again. Like if he's just played, he's a low-key shark, isn't he, John Moxley? We don't really talk about that as a community enough. He's a smart political operator, and a lot of people think because he brings so much goodness that he doesn't have that little side as well. I'm gonna need this Death Riders turn soon, because he's pushing his luck with me again. I love the work of him again, but the story's starting to worry me that we're just left with babyface Death Riders.
And I think I've always kind of said with wrestling, it's why I'm a low-key fan. It's why I was a Bret Hart fan. It's why I was a Shawn Michaels fan. I think the best wrestlers are. The best wrestlers care about their outcomes and winning and losing their matches and how they're presented. And they can care to a fault. Like, I would argue the Swerve Hangman thing is them caring to a fault, going, yeah, but we haven't done the bit where we're mates yet. We've got to do that. It's like, lads, it's not working. Now we've got to do it. They've had it in their head all year, so they've got to do it. And there's ego maybe getting in the way of what actually would be the best plan for both men. I can see that a little bit with Moxley, but like to me, that's why I can't say enough how much I loved Darby and Pac last week as an opener on Dynamite. That felt like a definitive end, at least to Darby and the Death Riders. That felt like it was Darby getting his big win was against Pac, and it's over. So maybe to your point, he probably should be beating Moxley at the end of it. He's beaten him once, maybe he should be beating him again. Who am I to say? But that felt a definitive end to that, which means I think the Death Riders move on to presumably turning on Mox. But I mean, obviously the promo at World's End that none of us could make any sense of Moxley now loving AEW felt like it was designed for that. It felt like he was cutting that promo 3-6 weeks too early, for the point of the story we were going to get to. But it feels like that story beat is coming, because I can't picture that universe, to be honest. I can't picture babyface Pac. I wouldn't be cheering for him babyface Claudio. I think Wheeler Yuta as an act works as a heel until it doesn't. Daniel Garcia, doesn't work at all, but he's also there too. I think at some point it's coming. Even this week, obviously, we've got the street fight with the Don Callis family. I don't think it's coming as early as that, but my guess would be we start getting more hints of it. What comes of it, and whether Moxley puts any of them over, might be to your point as well, but maybe he shouldn't, with, again, being the 2025 Wrestler of the Year. Takeshita was hard done by. I probably should have thrown him in there in the grappies as well, but maybe we'll see about the argument for 2026.
I'm with him. That's what, I do really feel with him again. And it's nicer to be with John Moxley than against him, because I don't think any of us, it stuck out for longer than me. And I didn't like just dreading seeing John Moxley's face on TV. I'd rather enjoy him than not.
Steph still hasn't forgiven him. She hates him.
I get it. I think sometimes his matches are a little bit overrated as well, if I'm honest, to my taste.
I don't rate him as highly as most. I am lower than most, like the general average.
I think he's a very interesting character to watch though, as long as this, because we've seen him when he isn't interested in the story as well, haven't we? When he was just sort of carrying the was it the IWGP title just so we could fight a bunch of old New Japan guys, and it was just his heart wasn't
the US belt. And then it was the international belt or whatever, the AEW belt. We've been here before. We've done it. Challenge of the week.
Get to see. I think we'll see quite clearly if, as the months unfold, he's getting his way or not. I think he'll wear his heart on his sleeve in that regard. But I need that Death Riders turn. I want it. They've made me want it. They've made that moment when he's cutting that promo. I love AEW. You're almost watching the eyes of Claudio and you're watching the eyes of Wheeler. Are they going to get the plastic bag out there? And then nothing happens. I need to see that plastic bag. I thought it was going to be Roddy Strong. I thought Strong hates being in the conglomeration so much. He's taking a look at the Death Riders and seeing his wife there and thinking they're the group for me. And him jumping is going to be the catalyst. But we'll see, I guess.
Definitely. Well, we got some other quick news and notes to get into it in a little bit, but that's pretty much Dynamite as far as it goes. This coming week, Megan Bay and Penelope Ford against the Timeless Love Bonds. The only other thing we haven't mentioned from this week's card. Samoa Joe versus Speedball Mike Bailey in there. I could do without Samoa Joe putting any more bounties on people, so hopefully Brian Keith has been yeeted out of that universe. But speaking of yeeting, before we get to the news, got a few questions from the Discord and the patrons on a variety of things. But we'll start off with Paul's questions that he's threw in there for us, and he says he thinks he knows the answer, as Hamflett has mentioned before, that he thought it was worth going with Jay in the Rumble last year, but in hindsight, would he have booked another winner? And on that, there are past Rumbles where you would change the winner, and what match that would set up at Mania. He does also ask about some top people we put focus on in WWE and AEW, to bring it back to them. We can answer in a second, but Yeah, are you and Matty? I've still actually pulled up the screenshots from our Discord last year where it was just a nice little tag wrestler, and then there's just me muting Matty on the Discord as he celebrates it into the night at last year's Royal Rumble. Was it all worth it, though? I mean, I think even I would say it was probably worth it for the story they told. I would just strongly disagree with whether it was a shoot or a work that Main Event J was created.
So my thing with this is, well, it's two things really. One is that you needed a Jey Uso or a Jey Uso-like figure, by which I mean even a wrestler that consensus might be rubbish. You need someone like that to win it once in a while to remind people that they can. I think the Royal Rumble got way too comfy with it only being down to one or two obvious winners. And Triple H especially hasn't shown a lot of creative flair booking the actual matches. So not only are you not getting a lot of suspense in the build, you're then not getting a lot of suspense in the match. So the fact that he had I don't want to say the guts, but you know what I mean? They took the punt on giving it to Jey Uso last year, has sent us into this year's Rumble with the idea that they could take the punt on anybody else, you know? Like, let's say Gunther loses to AJ Styles at the Rumble now. He could still viably go on and win the Rumble, couldn't he? Let's say, like, I don't know what...
Yeah, that was a weird thread that it feels like he's still in the Rumble, but I'm not 100% certain.
I think he is, and I think that's what they might do. I think AJ might get this win, but I think Gunther might win the Rumble. But the point is, you want to go into these Rumbles with 5 or 6 credible winners and a decent outside bet. It makes watching the match more fun, and Jey Uso has opened the door again to that outside bet. So I like that from a Rumble point of view. And in terms of booking him as the world champion, like, I welcome it. I've said on our In Your House reviews before, I'd have made every single mistake Vince McMahon made in the 90s with Diesel and Shawn Michaels. I'd have pushed Diesel. I'd have pushed Shawn Michaels. Money was not getting made. And I'd have still pushed them both because I believed in the momentum. I believed in the hype train. Wrestling should take more chances. I'd put the belt on LA Knight this year, and half the people think he can't wrestle, because at some point people are going to stop saying yeah loudly. Like, you've got to, like, promoters should take as many chances as they're able to. And if it fails, just walk it back. Jey Uso's a tag team champion again. And, like, look at the world around you. Is it really that bad? Like, is the great prestige of the Seth belt been damaged by Jey Uso carrying it around for a few months? No. Like, it was worth it. I was in person for Jey Uso winning the belt at WrestleMania. It was in a nice moment, capital M. Like, I don't see these things as a loss. We're not in the era anymore of like what's paying to keep the lights on in WWE, you know? TV rights deals and a massive sports washing contract from Saudi Arabia. We're not going pay-per-view to pay-per-view and judging them as individual draws. We're barely even talking about the quarter hours anymore. Like, it's one of the biggest punts Triple H is. He's criticized all the time for being a safe booker, and he fucking belted up Jey Uso. Like, if that's not taking a chance, what is? Like, it could be shit. It could be immediately shit.
Was.
And I would still do it, because you've got to know.
Well, it's like, it's WWE Unreal clip. Yeah, it's the Unreal clip that's come out today, isn't it? Where is it Road Dogg? Who's like, you know what people won't expect for Gunther to lose to Pat McAfee. It's like, yeah, there's a reason people don't expect that. Right? Yeah, you can take that a little bit fucking too far. And like, I think for me as well, and I think I dare I put words in his mouth. I think even by the end of it, Matty's accepted that, like, I don't think Jey Uso took his chance. I think that's different than what you're saying. It's a different conversation, but like, he had, I might not have made the move, but they made the move. They put him in that role. He told that story of him being a main event guy, and then, some very, very even for the low bar to entry that I think a WWE World Title match, pretty much has these days. I don't think he's surpassed it. I think he shit the bed on big occasions and on small occasions too, and that's the thing that always was going to catch up to him. That was why it was always a gimmick and not reality that he was this main event guy. But yeah, that's on him. That's more of a question for them, isn't it? Was it worth the risk when he didn't take it? If there was an actual WWE Unreal, it'd be like, yeah, we did it. We put him in the spot, and look what he fucking did. Triple H patted him on the back and told him, this is your chance, and he didn't necessarily take that chance. That would be my pushback to it. But I can see the merit in what you're saying there as well. But
I think we need to assess our relationship with risk now for these promotions. Things aren't risky like they used to be, are they? So like, a lot of the time I'll look at it and just think, do I want to look at that and see if it works? Like, if it works, great. But what are we reflecting on it now? What are we really talking about in terms of a loss? What got lost along the way for Jey Uso being given a belt for a few months? Almost nothing now. Like, I was somebody that was like crying as The Rock took Cody Rhodes' WrestleMania match on that SmackDown before they fixed it, Like, the stakes are rarely that high. Like, that was one of the few occasions with Cody finishing that story where the stakes were actually high. like, is there anything at the moment where the stakes are that high? I would argue no. Like, they've just put a frigging belt on Drew McIntyre, and because you can. Like, I like Drew enough, but yeah, come on. But you can do it. Everyone can have a go. If people are going to bury WWE half the time for saying nothing matters, then they might as well book it like nothing matters, and then see if out of nowhere they create a main event. I sometimes, here's me sticking up for the little engine that could, World Wrestling Entertainment. But I honestly think like it is. I can see Ewan's comment that just popped up. It is constantly feels too safe. Like I'm an advocate for a so-called risk, because financially nothing's a risk.
And that's why you put the AEW World title on Samoa Joe. It all makes sense. Speaking of which, top 3 or 5 people you'd have at the top of WWE and AEW going forward as for 2026, as Paul has put here. Is there anyone, maybe not, don't even need to a top 3, but anyone spring to mind outside of the established characters here? I'm trying to think from an AEW point of view. I might say, I think I said that on the Graphics and Crappies. I do think 2026 should be the year to Takeshita in AEW. I'd like to see him get past that upper mid card, nice little worker kind of role to being maybe just a bit lesser than Swerve and Hangman and even MJF and the lads, but in that mix. I'm trying to think who else might fit into that.
I think revived from injury, it's booking malpractice if you don't put the world title on Will Ospreay if he's fit. Like, I think I don't even necessarily shape it around.
It's mad that hasn't happened, isn't it? It always feels like that. Yeah. He's already a main event. He doesn't need the belt, but you're right. Yeah, there you go. There's one.
In AEW, that belt is still confirmation of your spot, and like he needs to be anointed. It is like Cody Rhodes winning that WWE title in 2024. He needs that as a vindication and a validation of exactly who he is. When he's fit, nobody can touch him. No, and I don't necessarily mean that belt to belt either as well. Like, he became a light years better weekly promo than I ever thought he stood a chance of being. He slotted into weekly television better than Kenny Omega. And Kenny Omega's had like 5 years.
Oh, mate, I got pelters for that. I had literally for months, people were following me around on Twitter going, "Oh, Kenny Omega isn't a great TV wrestler. Have you not seen his matches?" Like, no, he's good at working TV matches. What I'm saying is he's not a great TV character week to week. Ospreay was immediately to the point where, like, do you remember the conversations when Ospreay came in? It almost felt like, do they need him? They've already got like some of the best wrestlers in the world having the best matches. What's Ospreay going to offer? But, it felt like surplus to requirements. It was just like another one, like that meme. But like, he slotted in a way that like not many out before. And yeah, I agree with that. A better TV wrestler and everything that encompasses, not just the matches, then yeah, a lot. Yeah, I'll go with that. Kyle Fletcher's the other obvious one, isn't it? I'm trying to think of any other ones. Like, I'd like to see Brody King given a go. It's like Hobbs with him. And I think I said the same with Mox before. Like, there's guys like that, but it always feels like in the ether and the general consensus is just that bit higher than me. And he's one of those guys where it's just that bit higher than me. I'd like to see it happen, though. I'd like to see if they can get anywhere with it.
I also think there's a door.
Just a big guy in general.
Open. Well, I was going to say for the actually for the women's division in AEW, I think there's a door wide open at the moment because, like, yeah, you expect Mercedes to win the world title because she just hasn't won it yet. But I don't think Stat is the guy ultimately with that title. I think Willow Nightingale winning the TBS means that, like, just how Tony Khan's brain works, he'll just sit with that for a little bit. And to me, it feels like the door is wide open for one wrestler to get his ear and say, like, use me. Kind of how, like, Britt Baker as a heel broke through in 2020 in the pandemic. There's a spot there where, like, there's a I don't know, maybe Jamie Hayter can reascend, but again, she kind of feels like she kind of has maybe had a chance. Tony Storm feels content being out of that picture for a little bit. Like, I know that women's spots are constantly of an unfair premium in AEW, but it does feel like it's waiting for a bit. Stat hasn't really taken, has she? It's waiting for a top baby face or a top heel to be like, I think I've got the gimmick. I think I've got the work. I think I can step in. Like, I don't know who that is, but I do feel like there's somebody new that could just take could have their year, as it were.
Yeah. And Megan Bain, like Ewan says in the chat, like a Queen Aminata I'd like to see do more, signing the new contract now. She's always kind of been a jobber to the stars in AEW. I think she's somebody you could move up and do more with. I was just going to say on the men's division as well, the obvious, like, just beaming, shining right in your fucking face one. If we fucked it with Hobbs after 6 years and never got where he should have been, can we not fuck it with Big Bill? Can we just get going on the Big Bill train? Can we just have him on telly every week? Can we, move him away? Like, somebody made the argument, like, I don't think it was ever going to happen, but, like, surely if Jericho was on the way out, like, there should have been, like, a blow-up with Big Bill and Brian Keith. And Keith, you can just put in the bin, I'm not asked about, but Big Bill should have pinned Jericho on a pay-per-view, shouldn't he? Or at least on a TV, or he should have got something out of that whole nonsense. Like, that's the one. That's screaming at you. It's so obvious. How can you not do it? Like, we're going to be, when he eventually leaves AEW in 3 years and gets another NXT run or something like that, we're all going to be having those same conversations. Like, let's not have them. Let's just do it now.
I don't like
Tekla
that,
in the platters there in the women's division. I agree too.
Tekla, yeah. I don't like the Triangle of Madness at all, but I like Tekla in spite of the act. Do you know what I mean?
Thanks for pronouncing it right for me. I appreciate it.
I
agree for that.
Big Bill, like, he's one of them wrestlers, isn't he? You know how like, it was brass rings with Vince McMahon, but it's grabbing the ball with Triple H. Like, there is a guy that persistently grabs the ball and, like, just then isn't passed to. Like, how many times has Big Bill been in a spot that it's like he's made for himself? Remember the tag team with Ricky Saints? Like, he just, I was at that Double or Nothing Battle Royal where he made it out to the last few just by dicking around and just being so magnetic. And I don't know what more. Yeah, I don't know what more he could do. It's as if that, like, it's almost as if he's taken for granted too often. And like, I'm with you. I think he would manage it well as well. I don't think he'd look out of place if he was actually given the run.
Agreed. A few comments in the chat there agreeing with us. Yeah, I don't want Big Bill to become another Michael Wardlow, Chris Elliott says there as well. He's another one. Wardlow, he'll get that WWE run at some point. You know, it's coming. There you go. Anyone on the WWE side before we answer the next question? Anyone quickly?
I think I mentioned it before. Like, LA Knight is a guy I would go with. I want to know what the ceiling is specifically in LA Knight. I think they've done incredibly well to keep him as over as he's been without ever belting him up. Like, every year, the conversation comes around him winning Money in the Bank, and that's not an accident. That must mean that at least once a year, there's a groundswell for him to get that up, like that WWE cursed word, an opportunity. And I think I actually, very quietly, they've been doing a bit of character development with him as well. He was starting to express frustration with being overlooked and being put in, like, unfair positions, and it felt like it was leading into that, that corporate Cody movement that Drew McIntyre was trying to get off the ground. It felt like LA Knight was doing his own version of that, of, like, other people getting easier runs in tournaments and things. And I thought, they might be going somewhere with that. And then the Vision write him off, and nobody on screen is like, they're not pooching LA Knight. They're not asking, where's LA Knight? And I just think, I wonder if that's feeding anything, Trick Williams.
Obafemi, Platters.
Yeah. Right. Obafemi is one of them guys that should be a can't miss. And yet I'm quite worried about him.
I think the gimmick's low rent, to be honest. Like, he's good at encompassing it. I think that's going to be a ceiling for him.
Is he a better fantasy booked forum wrestler than he is an actual prospect? Like, you get
he's on a Definitely Driver mixtape somewhere.
Yeah, you get the 3 big nights in your head, but then there's going to be a week where he's wrestling in front of a very quiet crowd against The Miz. And like, this seems like such a petty thing. He's not as tall as the vignettes make him look if he's in there with the wrong guy. You need your wrestlers that are 6 foot and above. You need them to be doing the wide stance to look shorter than him. Like, if you think about when he worked Cody on Saturday Night's Main Event, did he really look that big a monster?
Kid needs some lifts, doesn't he?
Get some lifts in those boots, kids. Like,
get some Glenn lifts.
He would work the likes of Javon Evans, who was perfect for the size contrast, But Cody on Saturday Night's Main Event, he didn't look half as big, did he, as the vignettes make him appear?
Yeah.
So,
but I was thinking WWE now. When you look at, like, a Jonah Rock or whatever he's fucking called now, Bronson, the big guys just seem to be wide, don't they? It's a bit like the 90s, when we covered it on Benno Hamflett. It's like they stop being tall, they've stopped being muscular, they're just growing that direction instead. Like, it feels like we're in that period a bit.
I hope it works. I love Obafemi, and I do hope it works, but I've got my concerns about them running out of patience with it. Trick Williams, the rollout has been sublime, like a proper no-note. They put him in the ring with the right guys. The promos that he cuts were always his biggest strength anyway. Like, Jey Uso, let's talk about Jey Uso again. He is the bar for something, right? Trick Williams has never been that great a wrestler, but he's better than Jey Uso. So if Jey Uso can win a Rumble, anyone can win a Rumble. If Jey Uso can win a world title, there's the new bar. So Trick Williams can win a world title. And it again goes back to that thing I was saying before. I want them to take chances. I don't want this idea to be, well, Trick Williams can have a good year and a half chasing the IC title, and then he can have a good year in the main event without winning the belt, and then he can win. If he's hot, push him. I know it sounds like I'm simplifying it, but Trick Williams is hot at the moment, and it's the right time of year to be hot.
I was going to say, if that's a bar, it's more of a step than a bar, but I get the analogy. I was just going to throw it for all three, for whichever company he lands in. Gabe Kidd, that was another one I meant to mention in free agent season, like wherever he lands, I'd like to see. I think Tony Khan's really high on him if he goes to it. If he sticks with AEW and gets a proper contract, I think that'd be good. I don't know if I believe the WWE interest, but potentially he could do something there. Or if he does stay in New Japan, I'd like to see him be in the Yota Tsuchi spot by the end of the year if he does commit his future. But I don't think he's gonna. I think he's bound for somewhere in the US, probably most likely AEW. But yeah, to answer the last couple of questions, and we'll get out of here. I'll answer the Ewan's one last, as it's a good one to close out on. But Nick Yeoman asks, what would be an ideal run for the team of Big Boom AJ and QT Marshall in the Fed? I don't know. I feel like what they've done in AEW is the template, surely. Pre-show tags, is that the answer? NXT.
Right. Do you know, I think, when I said about obviously not mentioning how much I like MJF in the GRAPPL Discord, I think I might have brought up in the GRAPPL Discord that I think QT Marshall would be a good signing for WWE. Like, I think there's... I know that sounds...
NXT though, right?
Probably, yeah.
Because I like him in AEW because he's something different. I like that. Like, there's a spot for somebody like that on your card. There's a spot for Big Boom AJ on your card. Again, the spot might be the pre-show, but it's something different, isn't it? It's like, a more grounded, carny, working the crowd indie type wrestler.
I'm not sure it's going to happen because do you remember about 6 months after Cody left, he was like, you know what, I'm going to give the Indies a go, and I think he must have felt sure that Cody was going to get him in through the side door, and then 100%. Nothing happened, and then he came back to AEW, and he's like,
the chairman, Ricky Starks, they all got jobs. He just didn't. Yeah. He was left out of that group chat, wasn't he? He was like, what Matty does with all the rest of us, started a separate group chat without them in. That's what Cody did.
So yeah, I don't know, I think there's worse out there. Maybe you're right. Maybe it's an AEW thing. Maybe at the moment he succeeds by contrast. There's more wrestlers that aren't like QT Marshall and are. So it's like, he fits there. But the NXT could do much worse than a QT Marshall.
There you go. And last question we got here from Ewan. He says, if we weren't reviewing in your house shows, great way to get into the plugs, what other pay-per-view series would we have reviewed instead? There's a couple we got on the dock. It's funny that I should say we didn't start. Did we? Like when you came to us, like we're gonna start a podcast. We don't know what it is now. Like that came the in your house idea come like 2 months in. We did have a few of the ones we battled about.
Well, yeah, like the answer to Ewan's question is stay tuned for season 3, I suppose. When we figure out what that might be, I will just say that I think In Your House was like a perfect nostalgic sweet spot that we realized quite quickly. But having done it so long now with you, and obviously with another season of it ahead, I welcome doing stuff that one or neither of us has nostalgia for. I don't mind. I think you'll have experienced this. There are some people that you chat wrestling with that you kind of just need to agree with each other loads. Whereas at this point, we've done it enough where if it's a little voyage of discovery for one or both,
totally,
I'm more than happy for it. Like I'm fairly open-minded to where we go next once we've completed In Your House.
I think if we go the opposite direction, which could be a possibility, I think my views on those shows from somewhere in Atlanta might be different from your thoughts on them. But yeah, that's been the beauty of it. It's kind of like that was always the original idea. Was like for you, you've always gone back and watched these in your houses, and you're one of the people who holds it up as we joke about the standard of excellence for shows. I was one with it's more nostalgia. I hadn't seen these shows in years, so it was fun going back and remind myself of those times. But I do find that now as we go into season 2, we've now found ourselves in that sweet spot where it's like I've got an eidetic memory of 1997, and it's like you said with Gareth, it's the bit we all love, isn't it? 1997. Yeah. Hashtag not my Steve is pretty much Steve Austin from 1998 till retirement. And I think you'll agree just a little bit later, but 1997, very much my Steve. So like we're in that sweet spot right now, aren't we? But it'd be interesting to look at those not so sweet spots. Maybe we'll get to them with some of the Attitude Era shows as we get later on. But yeah, there's a few there, yeah. Benno and Hamflett Clash of the Champions, you says. Could be a ringer in that, actually. Good work.
Might not be as far off as you think there.
There you go, yeah. When they were fed, that was another idea we had. Maybe we'll do that. Read into that as you will. Could be one as well, but we'll see. But there we go. Unless there's any other questions, I'll let you get out of here, Michael, as if we aren't about to record another 2-hour podcast. Not live, though, in a second. People will hear very, very soon. But yeah, the only other bits, there was some other bits of news to get into that I'll save for weekend show with Davey on Thursday. We had a bit more on Trey Miguel's AEW release. Jim Ross had a fall again. he just needs someone to live with him, doesn't he? We need to sort that out. The WWE Unreal headlines that are coming out. I am going to watch WWE Unreal at some point this week and see really what Road Dogg says about R-Truth. But yeah, the less real this thing gets, the less interested I'm in watching it. And I did have a couple of news notes on the funny story of AAA using the AEW belt in the imagery for that. I don't know if I've heard you talk about that. And also Hiroshi Tanahashi's haircut. I feel like that's the other big news we're going to lead off Weekend Show on Thursday. I don't know if you had any big takes on any of those.
I think had he done it as a shock before the retirement, it might have hurt more. But now with the career finally in the rear view, it's a lot of it's like I am very blessed with like bald dads and uncles and grandparents still have my hair in one piece. But like you kind of admire it from Tanahashi at this point, being able to keep it as gorgeous and flowing as it was for as long as he did, really, don't you?
It just looks like your mum's mate from the hairdressers now, but like a couple of years later, but she's got an office job. That's the difference with Tanahashi at this point. Yeah, the AI thing. I've said my piece on AI. Fuck me, but I can't believe that this will be Unreal Season 3, the rise of AI in WWE, and Triple H sending out all of those press releases about how great the Trump diet is, and 2, how great AI is, and how much we need to use it within our company. Like, yeah. Maybe avoid things like that happen. It's probably a good shout, but yeah, I'm looking forward to digging into all that on future episodes. But yeah, floor is yours, mate. I know you can't plug the old Twitter at this point, but anything else you want to throw out there before we let you go?
Well, like as always, whenever you let me sneak onto GRAPPL, I always like kind of feel like I've jumped in through a window rather than an open door, and I worry about the listeners I may have ran off with all my pro-Fed rhetoric. But if this wasn't completely alienating for you, you can listen to me doing more of the same at What Culture Wrestling. We do a weekly, all the shows weekly review, basically Raw, SmackDown, NXT. And Dynamite, and for 1 week only TNA, but I wouldn't imagine that's coming back anytime soon. They're at What Culture Wrestling Podcast YouTube channel, as well as wherever you get your podcasts. And yeah, just to sort of save you the plug, Benno and Hamflett as well in your house, wherever you get your podcasts. It's increasingly becoming a little archive that we're extremely proud of. We've got a season finale coming shortly after the Canadian Stampede review drops with the Retro Boys, and then we'll be entering into season 2. Going into the Attitude Era and trying to see if, I would say some of our memories are maybe better than we thought, rather than worse this time around. And who knows, maybe a couple of special deliveries along the way as well. But yeah, Google me and you'll find me talking bollocks about wrestling somewhere on the internet. So I might not be on Twitter right now, but I am available if you want to talk shop on the GRAPPL Discord. Where, again, I've tried to be careful with the sort of takes I offer there, because I can feel like I can read the room sometimes, or I can see the room that Matty has just tried to like blow up and decide that I don't want to be a part of that.
You're his back.
But it's a wonderful community that I can heartily recommend as well.
Yeah, or sometimes you're the one who's putting the bullets in the gun for Matty to fire at me on certain shows. But that's part of the fun there. But no, nice one, mate. It's been boss having you on. I'll let you run as if I'm not going to talk to you again in another 2 minutes. But yeah, been great having you on. And obviously, yeah, follow Michael on our Discord. If nowhere else, yeah, I'll catch you on the next Benno and Hamflett, mate. Which, like I say, will be out this Sunday. See you on the other side. All right, well that's Michael. So yeah, like I said, keep this a little bit short as far as the outro goes to this one. But yeah, got to keep trying to get these Benno GRAPPL lives going over the next coming weeks, because I got Martin as me guest next week. So Davey Portman on the weekend show this week, and Matty's going to be in charge of the weekend show the week after for the Royal Rumble preview. But does anybody like a Michael or anybody else you'd like me to get on these GRAPPL lives? Say maybe 1 or 2 a month is the plan going forth. And like I say, we'll keep the spotlights to the big show reviews, at least for the time being, until we see JP come back. Do let me know. But yeah, on that note, thank you all. Follow us over on the GRAPPL Discord. Do subscribe over at patreon.com/GRAPPL. If you don't already, give us a subscribe here on YouTube. Every like, every comment helps as well. But as always, thank you to our YouTube members for keeping us on the air. Thank you to our Patreon kings and queens of the mountain, Conor Laughlin, Eddie Sarbins, Chris Platt, Carl Gack, Sophie Hitchcock, Sam Mulvaney, and Marty Ellis. And a special shout out to our friend Mike Hogan over on the Discord, who's going through a bit of a tough time at the minute. So yeah, our thoughts are very much with Mike. But yeah, hopefully you come through the other side of it, mate. But again, thank you all for tuning in. We will catch you all again on the next one. Good night, all.